The throne of the Mechas. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301, Offspring Issue. Close relatives refer to those who have a common ancestor within 3 generations or less. If they marry each other, it is called consanguineous marriage. It is possible that a couple who marry close relatives will obtain the same gene from their common ancestor and pass it on to their children. If this gene is inherited in an autosomal recessive manner, their children may become ill because they are homozygous for mutations. Therefore, consanguineous marriage increases the risk of certain autosomal recessive genetic diseases. Since the Earth era, the Korovin family has invested heavily in building the most advanced genetic laboratory in the world at that time, and they continue to invest heavily in research on human gene improvement. They will take DNA samples from each marriage partner, compare their genes with the women of the right age in the family, and choose women who have no risk of recessive gene defects for intermarriage. In addition, the Korovin family will adopt some unrelated girls every year. Most of these girls are orphans, and some are bought from slave traders. They are brainwashed and cultivated from childhood to improve the family's genes. Later, with the development of science, drugs for improving human genes appeared, which completely avoided the harm of recessive genes, and consanguineous marriage was no longer a problem. The Korovin family was deeply trusted by Nicholas. In addition to their endless stream of beauties marrying with the northern royal family and other military and political officials, another more important reason was their loyalty. The ancestral precepts of the Korovin family were that their family and all the forces of the family were loyal to every northern prince of the Nicholas family. Now, their family was Nicholas's biggest lackey, and also Nicholas's biggest financial backer and diehard supporter. Therefore, whether Nicholas implemented wartime policies or issued new currency, it did not affect the interests of the Korovin family and their related families. Therefore, no matter how other businessmen resisted, Nicholas had the confidence to have the support of the Korovin family. However, the thorny problem for the Korovin family was that Nicholas did not seem to attach importance to the issue of his offspring, and it was difficult for him to have feelings for women. Although countless beauties were attracted by the charm of Nicholas the Great, he was just playing around and did not have real feelings. To this end, the Korovin family began to select the 5 most outstanding girls from the eligible women in the family every 5 years, when Nicholas was 15 years old, for Nicholas to choose as queen or princess at any time, even if they became lovers, as long as they could leave his offspring. However, Nicholas disdained such women. He would rather sleep with a useful woman like Angelica than touch such a vase. Until now, Nicholas is over 50 years old, and the selection of candidates for the imperial concubine within the Korovin family has gone through 7 times. The patience of the Korovin family has reached the bottom, especially now that the Northern Empire has declared independence and Nicholas has become emperor. The Korovin family has finally taken action to maintain its position. The Korovin family united all walks of life in the Northern Empire, including ministers in the government, military generals, big businessmen, big mine owners, etc., and strongly demanded that Nicholas immediately solve the marriage issue and leave offspring as soon as possible. And unexpectedly, this proposal was highly recognized and strongly supported by almost everyone. They united to constantly advise and pressure Nicholas the Great. Although Nicholas hated people who disobeyed his will, he had no reason to refute or punish the ministers on this issue. The establishment of the Northern Empire was based on Nicholas the Great, and these people gathered around him. Once something happened to him, the Northern Empire without a legal heir would fall into civil strife and collapse. So Nicholas was forced to seriously consider the matter of marriage and heirs. Seeing that Nicholas had compromised on this matter, the entire Northern Empire fell into a state of madness. So countless videos of beauties were sent to the palace, especially the Korovin family, who used the power of the family to bribe the eunuchs and secretly removed some videos of beauties that could threaten the women in their family. Nicholas fell in love with Nina Korovin at first sight among hundreds of beautiful women's information, because her beauty was so outstanding and touching. Nicholas picked up her file and looked at it carefully. Nina Korovin, 19 years old, a student majoring in music at the Northern University of the Arts. Good at music and dance, and also very accomplished in literature and poetry. Nicholas was very satisfied and called his uncle, the current head of the Korovin family and the deputy prime minister of the Northern Empire, Bailey Korovin. "Uncle, please arrange a time. I want to have dinner with Miss Nina this weekend." Nicholas said. "Yes, Your Majesty." Bailey Korovin could not hide his excitement and went back to arrange it. Upon hearing the news, Nina was very unhappy. She didn't like such an arranged marriage. Nina was nominally Bailey's daughter, but she was just an adopted tool to improve the genetic genes of her family. Although she was instilled with the idea that family interests are supreme and women's destiny is to please men, since she was a child, the innate rebellious feeling in her blood made her very dislike such a life. In order to survive, she could only pretend to be submissive and try to do better because she saw those girls who were not good at studying and disobedient. They were not qualified to be tools at all. They were either given to others as playthings or sold to interstellar slave traders at high prices to brothels all over the galaxy. Another difference from other girls in the Korovin family is that Nina is also very interested in and talented in martial arts and mechas. This used to be a headache for Bailey, but he thought that Nicholas was a martial artist and maybe he liked this type of girl. So, Bailey not only did not stop her hobbies, but asked professional teachers to teach her martial arts and mecha driving techniques. Although Nina was only 19 years old, her mental strength level had reached level 21. She passed the D-level mecha master exam. Although her current mecha driving level had reached the level of C-level mecha masters, Bailey was afraid that she would have an accident during the mecha master exam, so he did not agree to let her take the C-level mecha master exam. Nina learned that she was favored by Nicholas, and that she was likely to become the imperial concubine or queen of the Northern Empire. She felt that the whole world had darkened. Girls in the Korovin family have a compulsory course, which is a course that introduces the personalities of all the important dignitaries in the Northern Empire. Only by understanding the personality traits, preferences, taboos and other information of these men can we better please them. And Nicholas is the one who is being studied most. Chapter 302. Girl Nina's Troubles. Nina knew that Nicholas the Great was cold, ruthless, and cruel. It was almost impossible for him to have any feelings for a woman. His requirements for women were absolute obedience and intelligence, but not to be clever. If she married this old man who was over 50 years old, she would not expect any love, not even family affection. She was just a pathetic reproductive tool, and she had to worry every day about angering this murderous devil. This was not the life she wanted. However, Nina was a very smart girl. She never exposed her true thoughts to others. In the eyes of the Korovin family, she was a gentle and sensible girl. She asked Bailey to go out for a good walk. After all, if she was chosen by Nicholas to become a princess or even a queen, she would never have the chance to go shopping again. This was a very legitimate request, and Bailey readily agreed. He didn't think much about it, but just to prevent his competitors from doing bad things, he specially sent 4 bodyguards, 2 men and 2 women, to protect Nina. Nina and her 4 bodyguards went shopping crazily in the commercial district of Siberia for 3 days. The bodyguards were miserable. They not only had to protect Nina's safety, but also had to help carry shopping bags. The female bodyguards were in a better situation, but the 2 male bodyguards almost collapsed. Women's shopping tortures men not only physically, but also mentally. Nina's purpose with them was, on the one hand, to find an escape route, and on the other hand, to wear out the patience and vigilance of the 3 bodyguards. As evening approached, the 4 bodyguards were hung with dozens of shopping bags, and they dared not speak out. At this time, Nina turned into a clothing store again. This is a clothing store that sells classical aristocratic clothing on Earth. The day after tomorrow is the weekend, and according to etiquette, Nina should wear this classical clothing to attend the dinner with Nicholas the Great. She asked the 3 bodyguards to wait for her in the lounge area of the clothing store, and she picked a few dresses, took more than a dozen bags of clothes, and took a female bodyguard to the fitting room to try on clothes. "Sister C, come and help me look at this chest binder. It's too difficult to do," Nina complained. This kind of noble clothing from Earth thousands of years ago is simply a punishment for women. The female bodyguard named RC spent a long time trying to put it on, sweating profusely, but she couldn't get it right. This kind of classical bra is very difficult to wear, and only experienced maids can do it. It is really a bit difficult to ask a bodyguard who has never worn such clothes to do it. How about this, Sister RC? Here is another one. Our bodies are similar. I will help you put it on. Look in the mirror and I will show you. Nina suggested, and the female bodyguard named RC nodded and agreed. RC took off her upper body clothes, and Nina helped her put on the bra, and started to tie the straps. RC watched intently, but she didn't notice that Nina's hand, which was tying the straps from the bottom up, quietly came to the back of her head. A ball of lightning flashed, and RC lost consciousness immediately. Nina's mental power level has reached level 21. When she broke through level 20, she had awakened her mental telekinesis. The attribute of her mental telekinesis is electricity control, which is a powerful, but very rare offensive mental telekinesis. No one knew this secret except her mecha teacher, Safina, a famous S-class mecha master of the Northern Empire. Bodyguard RC was electrocuted and passed out. Nina quickly changed her dress, and took out a long robe that had been prepared from a bag beside her. This robe had a hood, and when paired with a mask and a scarf, it had very good warmth retention, which was a very common outfit on Siberia. Nina swaggered out of the fitting room, then walked through the rest area, and left the clothing store under the eyes of the other 3 bodyguards. The other 3 bodyguards were told by Nina that she had to try on more than a dozen clothes, which would take about an hour or 2, and now only more than 20 minutes had passed, so they didn't notice anything wrong. Another hour later, when another female bodyguard went in to ask when it would end, she found RC unconscious. She quickly alerted her companions and Bailey. The Korovin family was furious and quickly sent people to block the commercial district, and the spaceport of Siberia was also blocked. However, at this time, Nina was already on a cargo ship heading to the Sakhalin starfield. With just Nina's personal ability, she could not escape at all, but her mecha teacher, Miss Safina, an S-class mecha master, gave her a lot of help. Safina is 62 years old this year. She is a famous S-class mecha master in the Northern Empire. She is also the guardian of the Northern royal family. She is also Nicholas's senior sister. She doesn't like Nicholas very much, and Nicholas doesn't like her either. It's just that Safina has a bad temper, and Nicholas dare not offend her easily. Not to mention that Safina is loyal to the Northern royal family, and the S-class mecha master is a strategic resource, so Nicholas can't do anything to her. Nina is Safina's disciple, and she likes her very much. Especially Safina is a special electric mental power awakener, which makes her value her even more. She wants to train Nina as her successor. Nina is still very frank with her teacher. She told her teacher that she didn't want to be a bargaining chip for family transactions and a tool for reproduction, and Safina also supported her very much. When Safina learned that Nina was chosen by Nicholas, she was very angry and wanted to go to Nicholas in person to argue, but was stopped by Nina. If Safina went to Nicholas to make trouble, Nicholas might compromise temporarily, but the narrow-minded emperor would hate Safina to death, and would definitely find an opportunity to cruelly retaliate against the teacher, and she would completely break with the Korovin family. The two then conspired through secret communication. Safina prepared a means of escape for Nina. When the time came, Nina got rid of the bodyguards and changed clothes to sneak into a cargo ship bound for the Sakhalin starfield. At this time, Siberia was in chaos. The daughter of the Korovin family and the candidate for the queen disappeared, and the bodyguard was electrocuted. This matter was a big deal. But they didn't expect that this matter was planned by their eldest lady Nina, and they didn't expect that Nina had already left Siberia. Bailey Korovin thought it was a malicious injury by a competitor. All the forces of the Korovin family were mobilized, and even the Ministry of the Interior of the Northern Empire was alarmed. Chapter 303 The Runaway Queen. However, the results of the investigation a day later stunned everyone. This was clearly an escape from marriage carefully planned by Miss Nina herself. The female bodyguard RC, who was electrocuted, swore that there was no one else at the scene at the time. She saw from the mirror that there was only Nina behind her, and it should be Nina who electrocuted her. The surveillance video in the clothing store later proved this. There are cameras at the door of each independent dressing room. This dressing room has no windows except for this one door. The surveillance showed that only RC and Nina walked into the room. Half an hour later, a woman wearing a hood and a robe walked out. Then the next person was another female bodyguard who came to investigate the situation an hour later. In addition, considering that Nina had been shopping with bodyguards for 3 days, it was clearly a sign of fatigue and an escape route. Bailey Korovin knelt in front of Nicholas's hall, waiting for Nicholas's decision with a horrified face. He did not dare to hide the truth, because he knew that Nicholas hated being deceived the most. Bailey reported the results of their family's investigation in detail. Ha 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 ha. Nicholas burst into laughter. After reading the report, Bailey was completely confused. Nicholas said, "I'm very interested in this young lady with a strong personality. Bailey, find her back safely. I want her to be my princess." This? Yes. Bailey hesitated at first, but reacted in an instant, and agreed ecstatically. Nicholas was originally annoyed by the forced marriage, and wanted to get by. He planned to find a few beauties every week, to have a romantic relationship, and once one of them was pregnant, he would make do with marrying her, shutting up these ministers, and making them feel at ease. Who knew that such an incident would happen? He began to be interested in Nina. Originally, he was just moved by Nina's beauty, but after such an incident Nina's image began to become fuller in Nicholas' mind. He decided to give this woman with personality a chance. The Northern Empire, Sakhalin Star region, is very close to the border of the Galactic Empire. It is the only way from the border area to the southern town of South Sakhask in the Sakhalin Star region. At a distance of 11,000, at positions 45, 56, 89, a medium-sized spaceship was found. At a distance of 8,000, the other party has discovered us, and is adjusting its course. It is speeding towards us. At a distance of 5,000, the optical image is activated. This is a civilian transport ship modified from a Clement-class medium-sized cruiser. Julian was closely monitoring the movements of the other party's spaceship on the monitor. It seems that our goods have been delivered to the door. Brothers, let's go and pick them up. Keel's face showed joy. At this time, the people in the Clement-class spaceship 5,000 kilometers away from them also had the same idea. Hyena Schmidt is a C-class mecha master in his early 60s. He has a small star pirate group of more than 50 members under his command. Usually, they do some no-cost business in some remote areas. The reason why his nickname is Hyena is not only because he is as ferocious and violent as the hyenas on the African savanna on Earth, but also because he has an unusually sensitive sense of the current situation. When the Northern Empire had not yet proposed independence, rumors were flying everywhere, and Schmidt keenly felt that the situation was not good. If the war was about to break out, the Imperial Army would first start with these pirates, if they wanted to train troops and stabilize the rear. Although Schmidt had a small base and more than 20 small spaceships and more than 200 pirates under his command at the time, his power was not small. He still decisively sold the base and all the small spaceships, dismissed some pirates, and bought this Clement-class medium-sized space cruiser converted into a merchant ship with his elite forces. The Clement class is a warship of the Galactic Empire that has been retired for less than 20 years. It has excellent performance and relatively advanced technology. Moreover, this type of spaceship has a fast speed and a large internal space, making it suitable for modification as a space transport ship. This warship could originally carry 30 mechas. Since part of the mecha cabin was converted into a cargo hold, there are now 20 mechas on their spacecraft. Schmidt also bought an office building on Lowland Star and registered a space cargo company. However, this company is just a cover. They often go to the border area to rob those smuggled spacecraft, so the risk of exposure is much smaller and the benefits are huge. The Milky Way is so big that they can shoot and move to another place, so it is not easy to be targeted by the Imperial military. At the end of last year, the Northern Empire had not yet declared independence, but due to the failure of Nicholas's paralysis operation, the Galactic Empire announced economic sanctions and material embargoes on the Northern Administrative Region, and closed the border. Schmidt transported a ship of strategic materials to the north, and this trip was fruitful. But before they returned, the Northern Empire declared independence. Schmidt found that after the declaration of war, the price of smuggled strategic materials rose sharply, and the profits became larger and larger, but at the same time, the risks also increased. However, Schmidt had a good idea. Their spaceships were hovering in the border area on the side of the Northern Empire. They were familiar with the exits of the wormholes that the smuggling spaceships passed through. Once other smuggling spaceships came out of the wormholes, they would quickly launch an attack. Schmidt himself was a C-class mecha division. He had 5 C-class mecha divisions under him, and the remaining mecha divisions were all D-class mecha divisions. Judging from the level of a battleship alone, their personnel's combat effectiveness even exceeded that of the regular army. Captain, there is an Aurora II spaceship in front. This is a fat sheep. A star pirate in charge of radar said. Well, that's good. We pretend to pass by and slowly approach. When we are 500 kilometers away, we will release the Mechas without warning in advance. Our spaceship is not as fast as this, so don't scare the prey. Schmidt said leisurely. Yes, Captain. The distance is 3,000, and it is getting closer and closer to us. Judging from the channel, it may be a passing by, but I don't think it's good. Julian judged from his experience and intuition that the other party was definitely not well intentioned. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304 Home Delivery. Xia Xingchen patted Keel's shoulder, who was sitting in the co-pilot seat. The spaceship is left to you two. You go. Perlo and I will go to the mecha to wait. I'll go too. After all, I'm also a D-class mecha master. More people means more strength. These few guys are not enough for the 3 of us to fill our teeth. We are just going to warm up. Okay. Keel thought about it, and it was indeed true. The 2 spaceships were getting closer and closer. Distance 2000, light energy shield system turned on, weapons charged, engine power 80%. Distance 500, the opponent's mecha is dispatched, 20 units, the enemy ship adjusts its direction, and warning shots are fired. At this time, an extremely arrogant voice came from the public communication channel. The Aurora II spaceship in front will stop immediately. Leave some money for the passage and I will let you go. Otherwise, you will become space garbage. The appearance of the evil mind is very similar to the Aurora II spacecraft, so the pirates misunderstood it. Fuck you, Oxx. Keel cursed in the most vicious language in the public frequency band. You go. You continue to stand by. Perlo and I will go out. Yes, Master. Yugo has always obeyed Xia Xingchen's words. Even if he did not understand, he would resolutely do it. Xia Xingchen, Revenge Knight Mech, move out. Perlo, White Reaper Mech, move out. The lower hatch of the evil mind opened, and the 2 mechas flew out of the mecha cabin one after the other. Looking at the 20 red dots slowly approaching on the screen, Xia Xingchen said, Perlo, leave a few for me. My mecha has not been fully tested after the modification. I will test it this opportunity and record the parameters. Okay, Xingchen, you be careful. After Perlo finished speaking, the White Reaper mecha turned over and landed on the upper part of the spaceship. The small mechanical arm outside the spaceship fixed the mecha. The mecha laser rifle was raised and turned on the continuous shooting mode. Since his mecha is also a nuclear engine, there is no need to connect an external cable from the spaceship to charge the mecha laser sniper rifle. At this time, the opponent's mecha was only 150 kilometers away, and Perlo turned on the rapid fire mode of the mecha laser rifle. Bursts of purple lasers shot out, looking like random shooting, but only Schmidt on the opposite side knew that every 1 or 2 lasers would take the life of a pirate. In this volley, 15 mechas, including a C-class mecha division, were blown up. The remaining 5 pirates, including Schmidt, were all C-class mecha divisions. At this time, the pirates who were still in shock realized that the other side had only 1 mecha shooting. Schmidt was a little angry and embarrassed. Half of his family fortune was gone in just a dozen seconds. Kill them for me, kill them. Several pirates received the order and were about to aim and shoot when a red light appeared on the display screen of the mecha. Xia Xingchen turned on all the thrusters and he drew out the Ningfeng sword used for the mecha. The blood in his body was boiling and he used the broken water sword technique as soon as he made a move, sweeping out with a sword. This was just a subconscious action, but who knew that a flash of sword light would appear and a pirate mecha 50 meters away was cut in half. Xia Xingchen pressed a button and the 8 floating cannons behind him fired at the same time. With a salvo, 3 more mechas were blew up. Only Schmidt and his mecha were left. Although they were both sea level mecha masters, Schmidt was much better than those pirates. But he had just used all his strength to dodge Xia Xingchen's attack. Xia Xingchen was also very satisfied. His mental power level had been improved, and the performance of the mecha had taken another leap. What made him even more excited was that his martial arts could be applied to mecha battles, especially the powerful sword technique of breaking water, which really gave him a surprise. However, there was only one mecha left, and he planned to test the effect of the sword technique of burning the sky in mecha battles, so he took back all the floating guns. Schmidt was stunned by the scene in front of him. He found that the opponent did not continue to attack him, so he threw away the mecha laser rifle, took out 2 light swords, crossed the 2 swords, and stabbed at Xia Xingchen. The 3 pairs of wings behind Xia Xingchen slightly adjusted the angle, and the flight posture of the Revenge Knight mecha was quickly adjusted to face the mecha rushing from the opposite side. Xia Xingchen's blood and ki began to run violently again, and the Ningfeng sword in the mecha's hand instantly turned red. He used all his strength to chop the sword off. Schmidt was unaware of this. He thought the opponent was holding an ordinary light sword, so he raised his light sword to block it. However, he never expected that this sword actually contained infinite power. Coupled with the power of the red light thruster behind Xia Xingchen, it actually cut the 2 light swords in Schmidt's hand and his mecha in half. The neat cut of the mecha glowed red, which proved how high the temperature of the sword was. A second later, a huge explosion sounded, and all 20 mechas of Schmidt's star pirate group were destroyed. The other star pirates on the Clement class spacecraft were dumbfounded, especially the death of Schmidt made them lose their backbone. Devil, this mecha must be a devil. Let's run. What should we do? Surrender. Everyone aim and fire the main gun. What are you waiting for? The cockpit of the star pirate warship was in chaos. This was the real leaderlessness. But soon they reached a consensus. Escape. The Clement class quickly adjusted its posture to escape. At this time, a huge explosion sounded from the tail of the spacecraft. Oh no, we were hit. The star pirates only then discovered that there was a red light spot on the side and rear of the spacecraft. The next moment, Xia Xingchen's mecha came to the front of the spacecraft. The floating gun behind the mecha left the mother body again and started firing at the main guns and secondary guns on the star pirate spacecraft. There were bursts of explosions again. The disarmed Clement class spacecraft floated in the space like a huge steel coffin. We surrender. We will not resist. Please don't fire. The remaining star pirates on the ship were very single and shouted loudly in the public communication channel. Open the mecha hatch of the spacecraft. Xia Xingchen ordered. His tone was unquestionable, and the star pirates were helpless and could only do as he was told. Xia Xingchen's mecha landed in the star pirate's spacecraft. Then, the Evil Thought's spaceship also approached. The Clement class was forced to release the docking channel, and the fully armed Hugo, Zilla and Baum came into the Clement. They found that Xia Xingchen had already controlled the situation, and all the pirates were forced into a large meeting by Xia Xingchen with guns. Originally, several pirates attempted to attack Xia Xingchen, but for Xia Xingchen, who had the inside skill, their behavior was to seek death. The attackers often did not show up, and Xia Xingchen had already shot them, leaving behind cold corpses. Keeler controlled the spaceship in the cockpit and monitored the captured pirates. Xia Xingchen, Hugo and Baum came to the cargo hold. A large amount of strategic materials were piled here. Under Xia Xingchen's guidance, several people picked out the most valuable materials and filled the cargo hold of the Evil Thoughts. Then, they left the pirates' spaceship. Chapter 305 Arrival in Yuzhno-Sakhatsk. Half an hour later, seeing that there was no movement outside, the spaceship maintenance technician among the pirates bravely pried open the door of the conference room, and the pirates ran out. Gone. Those demons are finally gone. Quickly check the damage of the spaceship. We have to find a way to make it fly to a planet with inhabitants, otherwise we will all die here. The pirates split up and carried out a comprehensive inspection of the spaceship. Report. All the thrusters are damaged. Only one small thruster can be repaired. Fortunately, thank God, there is no problem with the nuclear engine. Hey, what is this device? A pirate found that there was an extra device on the nuclear engine of the spaceship, and suddenly a great fear came over him. There was a digital display on the device, and the bright red numbers on it were jumping. 007, 006, 005, 000. In space, a huge group of fireworks bloomed. The people in the evil thoughts celebrated with high fives. Just now, Xia Xingchen entered Schmidt's room on the spaceship, where he found a large safe, which contained a lot of jewelry, precious minerals, cash, electronic star maps and other valuable things. Xia Xingchen put them all into his personal mecha space without hesitation. Xia Xingchen also downloaded the navigation log and navigation star map of the spaceship. When he saw the records on it, he was extremely angry. This is a group of evil space pirates. Xia Xingchen originally wanted to spare their lives, but after seeing these things, he changed his mind and let blood wash away their sins. Saborn volunteered to do a little trick on the engine of the Clement and set off a big firework. Okay, this time we have prepared all the goods, which is really smooth. We can set off. Xia Xingchen was very happy. He felt that he had gained a lot through this battle. Xingchen, your last move is very powerful, but I suggest you don't use that move often. It's too conspicuous. The whole galaxy knows your move, and it will expose your identity. Keeler gave him advice. In order to avoid being exposed, everyone used fake identities. Their appearance was adjusted with Dr. Lila's black technology, and they also changed their names. However, Xia Xingchen's martial arts were too dazzling, and those who were interested could see the clues at a glance. Thank you for your advice. I will pay attention. Xia Xingchen said. Keeler continued. Xia Xingchen, most of our spoils this time are core components of high-end mechas. Can you do something with them? We can't let these things help the Northern Empire. No problem, leave it to me. In addition, boom, install trackers in the packaging boxes of those products. Can you do it? Keeler asked. Don't worry, Boss Keeler, this is not the first time I have done this. The evil thought rushed towards South Sakhalinsk, an important town on Sakhalin. 2 days later, the evil thought finally arrived at this northern town. 2 huge orbital rings, one vertical and one horizontal, were built above South Sakhalinsk. On the orbital rings, hundreds of large orbital elevators descended directly into the atmosphere. These 2 huge orbital rings have a history of nearly 1,000 years. It was a huge expense to build them. Since the western administrative region of the Galactic Empire is rich in mineral resources, and many mineral planets of the Northern Empire are also in the Sakhalin starfield, South Sakhalinsk is the largest mineral resource distribution center in this area. Most of the more than 80 satellites of South Sakhalinsk are resource smelting satellites. As soon as the spacecraft approached South Sakhalin from the main channel, the warships of the 4th Fleet of the Northern Empire approached for inspection. Several soldiers of the Northern Empire boarded the evil thought. The people on this spacecraft looked fierce, with murderous eyes. There was also an alien who looked at them, as if they were prey, and they were immediately scared to the point of cramping their calves. They carefully checked the identity information of several people, but did not see any clues. When they saw several majestic mechas in the mecha cabin, they knew that the people on the evil thought were not easy to deal with. Before the war between the 2 countries, the patrolling soldiers here used all means to exploit the spacecraft traveling here. They would ask for benefits, and sometimes they would frame the other party's goods and confiscate all their goods when they found that the other party's goods were valuable, causing many cargo owners to lose their families. However, after the war between the 2 countries, normal trade was banned, and the border was blocked. Only a small number of interstellar smugglers could come here. These people came here after a narrow escape, and brought the strategic materials that Nicholas needed most. If his men exploited them at this time, these people would have no way to survive. Nicholas's last lifeline was cut off, which would greatly affect the preparations for war in the north. So Nicholas issued a death order, strictly prohibiting his soldiers from exploiting, making things difficult for, or even framing these interstellar smugglers. If they violated the order, they would be punished for treason. Moreover, most of these interstellar smugglers were desperate criminals, and it would not be good for these soldiers to fight them if they were really angry. So these soldiers saw that these people were not easy to mess with, and the warehouse was full of strategic materials, so they made a simple registration and left. Because they felt that this was the normal state of interstellar smugglers. The people sent by the Galactic Empire to do espionage work greeted them with smiles most of the time, flattered them in various ways, and even handed over red envelopes, which was exactly the manifestation of having something to hide. After the soldiers of the Northern Empire left, the evil thought stayed in the space station for more than 10 hours, and finally received the notice of approval. The Air Traffic Control Bureau in Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk sent them the cargo license and port entry permit. The evil thought slowly stopped at the free berth provided by the Northern Empire for smugglers according to the instructions of the Air Traffic Control Bureau. The evil thought finally arrived at the southwestern town of the Northern Empire, the mineral resource distribution center of Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk. The spacecraft was docked on a huge orbital ring, where there were berths provided by the Northern Empire for interstellar smugglers for free. Xia Xingchen, Keela and Hugo got off the spacecraft, while Baum and Julian stayed on the spacecraft to guard. The public security in other areas of the Northern Empire is very poor except for Siberia and the militarized Khabarovsk starfield. If no one is left on the ship, there will be no place to complain if the spacecraft is stolen. Chapter 306 Conflict at the Dock. As soon as the three of them stepped onto the dock, dozens of people gathered around them. I'm the best freight forwarder. I can help you find the highest price cargo owner. No one in Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk doesn't know me, Dorm. I'm the best freight forwarder on this planet. My agency fee is cheap. 500,000 star coins. Fuck him. 500,000 is cheap. I'll do it for 300,000. Looking at the messy group of people in front of him, Xia Xingchen frowned. These people are freight forwarders. There are tens of thousands of planets inhabited by humans in the entire Milky Way. The customs and economic conditions of each planet are very different. These people who engage in space freight do not have so much energy to find merchants alone. Once they are cheated, they have nowhere to appeal in such an unfamiliar place, and it is easy to lose all their money. So the profession of freight forwarder was born. They are certified to work, sign contracts with cargo owners, and will only get paid after the transaction is completed. The agency fee is paid into the account of the fund supervisor of the Freight Forwarder Association. The guild supervises the behavior of freight forwarders. Only when the contract is fulfilled and both parties sign and confirm can they get the agency fee from the guild's account. Most of these freight forwarders are very powerful. They have close ties with local big businessmen and big companies. However, the competition in this industry is also very fierce. The nearly 100 people in front of them are all freight forwarders here. Everyone, please make way. This is not the first time we come here. We already have freight forwarders. Keela shouted loudly. After hearing his words, some of them left in dismay. But there are still some who stand here with brows raised. No one stipulates that we must use the same freight forwarder every time. You must make a decision today, otherwise, haha, don't even think about leaving Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk intact. Yes, you don't have to use us, just compensate us 200,000 star coins each. Xia Xingchen's face was as gloomy as water, and he looked at Keela. What should I do, Ale? What is the rule? Keela smiled. There is no rule. Whoever has the bigger fist is the rule. These grandsons just want to extort money. Just beat them up. As long as you don't use guns and weapons of mass destruction, the military and police over there won't care even if someone dies. This is the North. As he said, a charming smile hung on the corners of his mouth. Xia Xingchen knew that when he showed this expression, he was going to kill someone through his daily interactions with Keela. You ignorant boys, pay if you want to live. This is the North. Southerners go to hell. Keela couldn't help but curse. Yo, there are really people who are not afraid of death. Brothers, beat him. The leading freight forwarder gave an order, and a large number of younger brothers rushed towards the three people. Seeing this, Wu Jie became alert and rushed forward first. Xia Xingchen and Qile also took action. In a group fight, especially when fighting with a small number of people against a large number of people, one must strike a fatal blow to avoid being besieged, otherwise one will be exhausted to death. Needless to say, Wu Zhao used the Terami people's martial arts to hit the vital parts, while Xia Xingchen used the 36 tiger moves to hit the joints. Qile's martial arts are very special. This kind of martial arts is used to kill people. It is simple and straightforward. It is a move that concentrates the whole body's strength and hits quickly. Every time it hits the vital parts. The only difference from Xia Xingchen and Wu Zhao is that the former two mainly attack the limbs and joints, while Qile's moves are to attack the crotch, eyes, lower abdomen and the triangular area of the head. The people who are hit will lose their combat effectiveness immediately. In less than 2 minutes, a large number of people were lying on the ground, and several freight agents had already fled when they saw that the situation was not good. In addition to Xia Xingchen and the other three, the freight agent named Dorm was still standing at the scene. The reason why he was still standing there was not because he was brave or good at fighting, but because his legs were shaking, and he was too scared to move. There is a kind of people in this world who bully the weak and fear the strong. When they really meet a desperate person, they are more cowardly than anyone else. It was this Dom who instigated the freight forwarders to besiege the three people, but now the situation has completely reversed. Xia Xingchen, Yugo and Qile surrounded Dom in a triangular shape, with a tyrannical light in their eyes. You are dead. I have a close relationship with General Palor of the Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk garrison. If you dare to touch a hair of mine, you and your freight forwarders will be dead. It's not too late for you to kneel down and beg for mercy now. Although he was too scared to move, Dom's mouth was still very hard, and he kept saying harsh words to threaten the other party. What he said was half true and half false. These freight forwarders have a deep relationship with the Northern Empire military. As freight forwarders, they all have to pay protection fees. However, if he wants to ask the military to stand up for him, he may have to pay a great price. Which bastard said I'm dead? Dorm, is that you? Dorm was interrupted by a thunderous voice before he could finish his words. Dorm looked in the direction of the voice and was immediately frightened to the point that his liver and gallbladder were violently trembling, his pants were wet, and he actually lost control of his bladder. Hazard. Xia Xingchen and the other two looked up and saw a white giant coming from not far away. He was just over 2 meters tall, with explosive, rock-like muscles, and looked ferocious. If Li Xiang from their Yazi base was a burly man, like a hairless big bear, then this Hazard was a bigger bear. Hazard took 2 steps at a time, and came to the 3 people, clasping his hands and bowing. I'm sorry, I'm late. Seeing this, Dom knelt on the ground and burst into tears. Lord Hazard, spare me, I didn't know that the freight agent of these 3 was you. Before he finished speaking, Hazard kicked him in the chest, and Dom's body flew more than 20 meters away. You should know that the orbital ring of the South Sakhalinsk star is constantly rotating, and there is gravity on it. In this case, a person was kicked so far away, which shows how fierce this kick was. Dom's body had become a corpse before landing. The man called Hazard hugged Qile warmly. My good brother, welcome to South Sakhalinsk again. I'm so happy to see you. Tonight, we will not leave until we are drunk. Me too, brother Hazard. Hazard gave instructions to the intercom of his personal terminal for a while, and soon, 2 maglev cars came, one of which was a luxury RV. 8 armed men got out of the car in front. Ask your friends on the ship to get off. I have a few men to help you guard the ship. I promise that not even a mouse can get close to it. We won't go home until we are drunk tonight. Chapter 307 Artificial Atmosphere. As soon as Xia Xingchen and his companions arrived at the dock of South Kazakhstan, they were besieged by a group of freight forwarders who wanted to force a sale. As a result, the group was beaten up by 3 people. At this time, the freight forwarder Hazard found by Qile also appeared in time. Hazard found 8 fully armed brothers to help Xia Xingchen and his companions guard the spacecraft. By the way, he greeted the soldiers of the Southern Sakhalinsk garrison of the Northern Fleet at the dock and asked them to help look after the evil thought. Qile also asked Julian and Baum to get off the ship together, and they got on Hazard's RV together. Xia Xingchen was a little worried about the evil mind. He looked at Keela, and Keela smiled. Don't worry, Axing. Our spaceship has a very good anti-theft system, and Brother Hazard is one of us. He is trustworthy. Xia Xingchen was relieved. The 5 people got on the luxury RV, and after driving for more than 10 minutes, they arrived at the nearest orbital elevator. The RV drove directly into the orbital elevator. A robot came to secure the RV, and the people in the car also fastened their seat belts as required. The orbital ring of Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk is a full 5,000 kilometers from the ground, which is also the length of the orbital elevator. Ordinary passengers must get off the car when they come here and take the elevator cabin down to the ground. It is very expensive for passengers to take the elevator directly to the ground, which shows the strength and financial resources of Hazard. As the yellow indicator light in the RV ended flashing, the green light came on, and the orbital elevator quickly descended. The acceleration was very high, but except for Baum and Hugo, who felt a little uncomfortable, everyone else was used to it. Especially Xia Xingchen. He felt that this was much more comfortable than riding in a mecha landing capsule or a landing ship on Watchstar. At least there was no huge noise, bumps and shaking. 2 hours later, the elevator slowly stopped on the ground, and the RV was released from the elevator. Xia Xingchen opened the window, and a pungent smell rushed into his nose. He was so scared that he immediately closed the window again. Seeing this, Hazard laughed. Axing, this is Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk. This time, the 5 of them went to the north to participate in a special operation. Except for Keela, the others had their appearances adjusted. Xia Xingchen used a fake name called Axing, and his identity was a rich second generation with a little money and a love of adventure. Hugo used the alias Awu, and his identity was a Terami bodyguard bought by Axing. Then, Hazard introduced the history of South Sakhalinsk to the few people. South Sakhalinsk was discovered 1,600 years ago. At that time, it was the largest resource and mineral planet in the entire northern administrative region, with dozens of precious mineral resources. More than 500 years later, humans invented the technology of shaping the atmosphere. There are tens of thousands of planets in the Milky Way, and most of them have no water or atmosphere, so they are not suitable for human survival. Humans can only survive on these planets by building ecosystems. Ecosystems have great limitations and require a lot of resources to maintain. More importantly, without a complete large-scale ecosystem, the ecosystem is very fragile. Earthquakes, fires, meteorite impacts, even power outages and a plague can bring disaster to the entire ecosystem. Later, a scientist named Mark Samuelson developed the atmosphere shaping technology and applied it to practice, successfully transforming a planet without water and atmosphere into a planetary system with an atmosphere and oceans that can self-regulate the climate. For this, Mark Samuelson won the highest scientific achievement award in the universe. This award is given to major scientific inventions that change the fate of mankind. Later, this award was named the Mark Samuelson Award. This award is awarded once every few decades. That year, Mr. Zhuo Leheng won this award for developing the micro-controlled nuclear fusion engine Longsun 1. However, there are 2 prerequisites for shaping the atmosphere of a planet. The first is the gravity of the planet, and the second is the celestial environment in which the planet is located. The mass of a planet is one of the prerequisites for it to attract an atmosphere. Satellites like the moon are too small in mass and have insufficient gravity, so it is impossible for them to absorb gases and form an atmosphere. For slightly larger asteroids like Pluto, even if they have an atmosphere, it is very thin, and such a thin atmosphere is not suitable for human survival. After calculations and nearly 100 years of practice, humans have found that the gravity conditions suitable for artificial atmospheres and forming habitable planets must be above 0.8 g, that is, at least 0.8 times the gravity of the Earth. The celestial environment in which a planet is located means that the distance between the planet and the star cannot be too close or too far, and there cannot be high-energy radiators such as black holes, neutron stars, and supernova remnants nearby. If a planet is too close to a star, the atmosphere above it will evaporate quickly. If a planet is too far away from a star, the temperature on the planet will be too low, and liquid oceans cannot form on the surface of the star, and the climate cannot be adjusted by itself. In this way, even if there is an atmosphere, it is not suitable for human survival. The main components of the atmosphere are nitrogen, accounting for 78.1%, oxygen accounts for 20.9%, argon accounts for 0.93%, and there are small amounts of carbon dioxide, rare gases, helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, radon, and water vapor. There are two main sources of the atmosphere of planets with natural atmospheres. The first is that in the early days of the formation of the universe, there was dense gas in space, and these planets slowly captured these gases by gravity to form an atmosphere. However, after billions of years of development, the gas in space has become increasingly rarefied, almost a vacuum, and the planets that were formed later could not form an atmosphere in this way. The second way for a planet to obtain an atmosphere is through comet impacts. The Earth's atmosphere was formed by the impact of a comet. Comet is the most common celestial body in the universe. It is almost everywhere in the universe. Some comets have fixed orbits, while others wander around until one day they hit something and end their mission. Comet materials are mainly composed of water, ammonia, methane, cyanide, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, etc., while comet nuclei are composed of a mixture of condensed water, carbon dioxide, dry ice, ammonia, and dust particles, which is a dirty snowball. Hundreds of millions of years ago, several comets collided with the Earth. The huge heat generated by the impact caused the materials on the comets to evaporate into gas. These gases could not dissipate into space due to the gravity of the Earth, and eventually formed the Earth's atmosphere. Samuelson's planetary atmosphere shaping technology simulates the process of the formation of the Earth's atmosphere. He found a planet with suitable mass and position, and built several nuclear smelting plants on this planet. They used spacecraft and space robots to capture a large amount of space ice and icy asteroids, threw them on these planets, and melted them into gas in nuclear power plants. They also used hundreds of giant thrusters to forcibly change the orbits of some comets and force them to collide with these asteroids. After decades, these planets have absorbed enough gas to form an atmosphere and an ocean that can self-regulate the climate. The success of this technology has made an indelible contribution to the development and growth of mankind in the Milky Way. Chapter 308 Hazard. Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk, due to its superior geographical and locational conditions, eventually became one of the more than 5,000 planets with an artificial atmosphere. After having an atmosphere, humans put a large number of plants and algae adapted to the harsh living conditions in its oceans and land. Under photosynthesis, they released a large amount of oxygen, and finally transformed Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk into a habitable planet. However, due to years of mining and smelting, the atmosphere of this planet has been seriously polluted. Although there are no mines to be mined here now, and most of the smelting plants have been moved to satellites, it will take about hundreds of years for the ecological environment of this planet to recover. That's why the air here is so turbid. The car stopped in front of a very luxurious villa. Xia Xingchen observed it carefully. The villa was heavily guarded, and there were even 4 mechas in the yard. Everyone entered the villa. The furnishings inside were very luxurious, but it gave people a feeling that they had not lived in it for a long time. Hazard led 5 people to a small room of only 8 or 9 square meters. He used his personal terminal to scan the instrument on the wall, and the room actually lowered as a whole. It turned out to be an ingeniously designed elevator. The elevator descended 17 or 18 meters before stopping. When they walked out of the door again, they saw a huge underground space, more than 10 meters high. Inside the space was a villa that was exactly the same as the one on the ground. The villa was decorated magnificently and finally looked like someone lived there. The guards in the space were also strict. There was also a huge mecha warehouse next to the villa, with 4 mechas placed side by side. I can be said to be the richest man on this planet, except for General Palor. People who are richer than me don't bother to live here. I monopolized nearly 60% of the freight forwarding market on this planet, so I offended many people. The reason why I don't live on the ground is that the Northern Empire is so chaotic that it is unimaginable. Maybe rockets and lasers will hit the villa when I sleep one day. It is relatively safe only underground. Hazard explained. Seeing that Xia Xingchen was very silent, Keyless smiled and said, "Axing, relax. Hazard and I have been friends for many years, and he is also a member of the Yazi." Then he told Xia Xingchen about Hazard's experience. When Hazard was young, he was a warrior. He learned from masters everywhere and acquired a lot of skills. Then he gathered a group of brothers to form a society. Later, he felt that he also needed money to run a society, so he entered the freight forwarding industry. Hazard was a rough and careful person, good at learning, and soon he was like a fish in water in this industry. He had a very good relationship with the garrison troops of the Northern Fleet here, and was also one of the financial sponsors of Major General Palor. It can be said that Major General Palor's journey to this point was supported by Hazard. Similarly, Hazard also received help from Palor, and his business was booming. Later, Hazard fell in love with a woman, but he knew that he had offended too many people. In order not to bring danger to this woman, he was only with this woman in secret. Not long after, this woman gave birth to a daughter for him, and named her Mary. When little Mary was 3 years old, she went to Siberia with her mother, and happened to catch up with Nicholas's tour. The balloon in little Mary's hand accidentally flew away, and flew over Nicholas's head. Little Mary chased after him to get the balloon back, but Nicholas's guard kicked little Mary without saying a word. How could a 3-year-old girl withstand the fatal blow of a warrior? Little Mary was kicked more than 10 meters away. She died on the spot with her brain burst. Little Mary's mother was heartbroken and wanted to ask for an explanation, but was taken away by the Ministry of the Interior of the Northern Empire. Soon after, she and her family were secretly arrested and later killed on the charge of conspiring to assassinate Prince Nicholas. In fact, Nicholas knew that they were innocent, but he was unwilling to admit his mistakes and even ordered people to kill their entire family with the purpose of eradicating the roots. Fortunately, Hazard's relationship with her was very secret, so he was not implicated. Hazard was heartbroken when he learned the truth, and he hated Nicholas to the core. However, Hazard knew that Nicholas had a dictatorship in the Northern Empire, so he had to endure it and wait for an opportunity to retaliate. Later, he posted information on the assassin group's Skynet about assassinating the guard who kicked little Mary to death. Keela took on the task and avenged little Mary. Hazard thanked him profusely, and the two formed a deep friendship. Hazard gave Keela a lot of help in the north, and Keela also helped Hazard get rid of some opponents and high-ranking officials of the Northern Empire. Later, the two people got to know each other more and more deeply, and Hazard joined Yazi. His subordinates were spread throughout the Northern Empire, and provided great help to Yazi in intelligence and other aspects. Xia Xingchen showed Hazard the video of the mecha that killed Freya, and asked him if he knew the origin of this person. Hazard was silent for a while, and said, "I know these people. They are a new force formed by Emperor Nicholas in recent years. Nicholas has selected young elite mecha divisions under the age of 30 from all over the country, equipped with the best mechas in the Northern Empire. This force now has more than 4,000 mecha divisions. They have been here before, and I have observed them closely. Their mechas are very advanced and disciplined. If a war breaks out, such a secret force can even play a role in quickly changing the situation on the battlefield. Now Nicholas is implementing a display policy for merchants and issuing new currency here. The main task of these people is to suppress the rebels and train soldiers by the way, which is actually a massacre. Although I don't know who the mecha division in this video is, I can feel that his status in this special force is not low. Even his mecha is very special, and there is only one. Brother Hazard, our final destination is the Baikal administrative region in the east. Most of these videos were shot there. I'm going to find and confirm the true identity of this mecha master, and if possible, kill him. Xia Xingchen explained. Brother Crossing, I have some suggestions about your itinerary this time, but I don't know if I should say it or not. Hazard looked at the itinerary plan of Xia Xingchen and others, and put forward his different opinions. Chapter 309 Adjustment Plan. Brother Axing, you may not know that the economic development of the Northern Empire is extremely unbalanced. The Baikal starfield in the east of the Northern Empire has a sparse population and scarce resources, and has little influence on the Northern Empire. In the past, whenever Nicholas wanted to implement a policy that angered the people, he would start with the eastern region. Just like this time's wartime policy and the issuance of new currency, it is also in accordance with convention to implement it in the east first, to see the effect. to give other regions a buffer time, and to kill the chicken to scare the monkey. Brother Axing, the video you saw should have taken place a month or two ago. The large-scale operations in the Eastern Administrative Region are basically almost done, so you may be in vain. Now, according to the intelligence happening in various places, they are active in the Baku starfield, but it is a border, and it is not a place where business and manufacturing are prosperous. It is estimated that they will soon be able to complete the mission there, so the next step is the Siberian starfield and the Sakhalin starfield. I suggest that you stay in these two starfields for a longer time, the greater the chance of discovering them. Of course, there are more valuable targets worth assassinating here. Xia Xingchen pondered for a long time and said to Keela, "Ale, I think Brother Hazard's suggestion makes sense, don't you think? Then let's adjust the plan as Brother Hazard said. As long as you don't object, Ale." Xia Xingchen nodded. "Brother Hazard, you are the owner here. I want to hear your ideas." Hazard said, "Since we are doing a show, we have to do it in full. I wonder what goods you brought this time." 2 tons of blue crystal, a necessary ore for making blue light thrusters, and a ship full of optical computer central processing units for Mechas. Xia Xingchen replied, "Oh, these are all hard currencies. So, I will give you some advice. I will introduce you to a big ore merchant in Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk. He belongs to the Korovin family, the first family of the Northern Empire. He will never treat you badly in terms of price. You can use these blue crystals to exchange for star coins, and don't ask for new coins. That thing is as worthless as waste paper. The current exchange rate is 158. I will help you exchange some on the black market, to cover up your tracks. Then you will travel northward along the western part of Sakhalin, where you will meet many transport ships of the Northern Empire. They will transport the ore to the arsenal in the Khabarovsk starfield. You can pick up a batch of them as extra money. Then your next stop is the Korovin star system, which is located at the junction of the Siberian starfield, the Sakhalin starfield and the Khabarovsk starfield. It is the fief of the Korovin family, the first family of the Northern Empire. There you will get a good price for your goods. The Khabarovsk starfield is still under military control, and you can't enter. The Korovin star system is the material transfer center, and even the ore here has to be transferred there once. And there are many important strategic targets and important people there, which will keep you busy if you want to assassinate them. Even if you want to go to the Eastern Administrative Region in the future, it is the fastest to go through the Korovin star system." "Oh, what's going on?" Xia Xingchen was very curious. Hazard explained patiently, "From here, driving eastward, it will take at least 1 month to cross the Baku star system to arrive. In the Korovin galaxy, there is a special wormhole that is not open to the public. Only the Korovin family's spacecraft is eligible to use this wormhole. Through this wormhole, it takes 3 days to reach the southeastern city of Velazov in the Baikal starfield. With this wormhole, the Korovin family has almost monopolized all commodity trade across the east and west of the Northern Empire, and made a lot of profits. The reason why this wormhole is open now is because Nicholas issued an order that can only be received in the Korovin galaxy. Nicholas offered a large reward to encourage all forces, explorers, and smugglers to go to the eastern and southern borders of the Eastern Administrative Region to find passages and secret wormholes to the Galactic Empire. Once someone opens up this route, a large reward of 500 billion star coins will be given. Based on my understanding of Emperor Nicholas, even if someone can open up a new route, most people will not be able to get the money. Even if they can get the money, they will not be able to spend it." Xia Xingchen sneered. Brother Axing is right. Almost none of the big families in the Northern Empire participated in this matter. Most of those who participated in this matter were smugglers from the Galactic Empire and some desperate desperados. But despite this, those people still think it's worth a try. After all, the reward is too tempting, and ordinary people have no way to resist it. But on the other hand, you can also use this wormhole to go to the Eastern Star region and maybe get other gains. Xia Xingchen turned his head and looked at Keela. Let's do this. In addition, Brother Hazard, when was the news of the opening of the wormhole announced? About 2 weeks ago. This was the news brought by the smuggling spaceship returning from there. After all, there are still people who know Nicholas's background and don't wade into that muddy water. They just arrived here yesterday. Xia Xingchen was a little stunned. He didn't understand what was going on. Hazard took a look and smiled. Xingchen, the skynets between the various administrative regions of our northern empire are not interoperable except for the military network and the financial network. So if we want to know the news, we must wait for the spaceship over there to come back and bring the news. No wonder the news here is so slow to spread. It's because I'm ignorant. But it would be great if we could hack into their military or financial communication networks. Keeler smiled bitterly and said, Axing, this is really difficult because the line in the north is a very closed network. The host is on Siberia, maintained by top technicians. Even the electronic warfare forces of the Galactic Empire can't get in. Then Brother Hazard, when will you transmit information to the Galactic Empire next time? Tomorrow, Yazzie will send a communication spacecraft back to headquarters. Then please, Brother Hazard, please make sure to report the news of such a wormhole in the north as key intelligence, and pass this information to General von Krausch of the 3rd Fleet of the Galaxy. He will understand what I mean when he sees this information. Chapter 310 Gemini. 2 weeks later, General von Krausch received the intelligence from the person looking for Yazzie. After reading it, he felt that it was a serious matter and quickly notified his father, General von Bismarck, the Grand Marshal of the Galactic Empire, through a secret communication channel. Marshal, I have important intelligence for you to review. Marshal von Bismarck looked at the intelligence and seemed to be relieved. This intelligence is too important. It is the key intelligence that determines the outcome of the war. Once we miss this intelligence, it will cause a huge strategic mistake. Yes, father. If Nicholas concentrates heavy troops in the Sakhalin starfield and releases some false information, we will have to increase troops in the western administrative region in a targeted manner. At this time, they can deploy all their troops to the Baikal starfield through the wormhole in a very short time. Once they find the new channel and wormhole between the Baikal starfield and the eastern administrative region, they will feint in the west and then send troops to the eastern administrative region. We will be completely passive. The Grand Marshal nodded. I will inform the old guy Day Yunfei and let the intelligence department adjust its work focus. I don't know who brought the intelligence this time. This strategic insight is sharp enough, and he knows you very well. General von Krausch sighed. Hey, father, this is an old acquaintance of ours. The Guardian Knight of the Star Princess has now gone to the Northern Empire to seek revenge. This guy is too willful. Haha, but I like this guy who is happy to take revenge, dares to love and hate. That old guy Nicholas is going to have a headache now. His nemesis is not far away. At this time, the evil thought had already embarked on a new journey. Along the way, they destroyed 2 large space transport ships and 6 medium-sized space transport ships, all of which were ships transporting ore from the mineral planets in the west of Sakhalin and Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk to the Korovin system. Although there are pirates in the Northern Empire, most of them are individual pirates disguised as transport ships. Because Nicholas will never allow a large-scale pirate group to appear in his territory. Moreover, these pirate groups dare not rob the transport ships of the Northern Empire's military and government, even if they lend them a few courage, because they will be struck by Nicholas's thunder without any consideration. In addition, the Galactic Empire is now preparing for war, and the military has not yet infiltrated warships into the north, so the Northern Empire's transport ships, especially the transport ships transporting ore, have no warships to escort them. In fact, a more important reason is that there is no money. Once the warships are put into operation, it will cost money. Sending warships to escort the ore transport ships is too extravagant for Nicholas now. So this gave Xia Xingchen an opportunity. They attacked the cargo ships on relatively remote routes, where the intervals between the ships were large, and they were not within the coverage of the Northern Empire Skynet. The small number of escort mechas on the cargo ships, the mecha masters were not even at the level of D-class mecha masters, and were no match for Xia Xingchen and his men. As usual, they first destroyed the mechas, destroyed the engines and cockpits, and then protected bomb to install the fireworks, and then detonated them in space. Several people enjoyed it. When the Northern Empire's military found something strange, they had already lost 5 large transport ships and 12 medium-sized transport ships. They found that more than a dozen transport ships did not arrive on time, knowing that there might be an accident. The Northern Empire's military sent 4 small fleets to search along the routes of these ships, and finally found the wreckage of these ships in space. When the news reached the palace of the Northern Empire, Nicholas could not sit still. He knew that the wolf had finally come, and the counterattack of the Galactic Empire had officially begun. However, Xia Xingchen's exploration was not affected at all, because they had already reached the western town of the Northern Empire, Gemini. Celestial bodies like Gemini are very rare in the entire Milky Way, because they are actually binary stars composed of a pair of planets. A binary star is composed of 2 stars that rotate around a common center. For one of them, the other is its companion star. This kind of binary star system is often seen between stars. The formation of this binary planet system of Gemini is very accidental. First, the masses of the 2 planets must be similar, otherwise there will be a tragedy of one planet colliding with another planet. Second, the 2 planets are embracing and rotating each other, but at the same time they revolve around the same star, and there are no other large celestial bodies in the orbit of the revolution that have a negative impact on the orbit of the binary star. The 2 planets were named Gemini A and Gemini B respectively. Their diameter and density are similar to the Earth. The 2 planets are 22,000 kilometers apart, and the rotation speed of the 2 planets is exactly the same. The population of the 2 planets of Gemini is more than 10 billion, and this population density is almost unimaginable in the current space age. The 2 planets are short of resources and have no special products, but this does not affect its notoriety in the entire galaxy. Some people call them slave planets, and some people call them evil twins. Because this is the center of the largest population trade in the entire galaxy. Among them, Gemini A is called the Heaven Star, where there are various high-end hotels and entertainment facilities. Here, you can buy beauties of all races in the universe, especially the blonde beauties that are special to the north. In addition, there are tens of thousands of slave auction houses of all sizes. For those rich people, this is heaven. Gemini B is called the Hell Star. A large number of slaves are imprisoned here, where they are selected and receive various trainings so that they can be sold more easily. What is even more unacceptable is that there are tens of thousands of population breeding centers here, which are specially used to cultivate beauties of various races. Here, humans were produced, processed, selected and sold like commodities, and countless sick or disobedient slaves were killed and thrown into the human furnace for burning. That's why people say Gemini B is a hell planet. According to Hazard's suggestion, Xia Xingchen and others changed their action plan. They adjusted their route and headed for the Korovin star system in the west of Sakhalin. Along the way, they destroyed more than a dozen ore transport ships of the Northern Empire, which once again added to the trouble of Emperor Nicholas. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311 Guide 1K. After about 2 weeks of sailing, the small high-speed spaceship Evil Thought finally arrived at the slave trade capital of the Milky Way, the Evil Gemini. The spaceship still had half a day to reach Gemini. Several people met in the cockpit. Keelan introduced the basic situation here to Xia Xingchen, and Xia Xingchen frowned. How can such an evil place exist? Xia Xingchen couldn't understand. It has its rationality. This place brings a lot of money to Nicholas every year. He is unwilling to kill this hen that can only lay golden eggs. Then I have an idea. Let's do a big deal here. How about it? Xia Xingchen suggested. We must do it. I want to light up the entire Gemini with fireworks. Baum's eyes lit up after hearing Xia Xingchen's suggestion. That's a must. Several big slave traders here are Nicholas's diehard supporters. We must kill some of them to purify the environment here. I agree with your proposal, so let's do it. Xingchen, do you have any good ideas? Keeley asked Xia Xingchen. What is the military stationing situation here? Julian called up the star map. Gemini is located in the western and northern part of the Sakhalin starfield. There are no mineral resources here, nor is it a transit station for the route. It is a relatively remote place. In the past, Nicholas' ancestors also built large casinos and brothels here to balance the regional economic development, and later gradually formed a human slave trade market. This is also related to the remoteness of this place. It is very poor and barren here, and there are no valuable mineral resources on the surrounding asteroids. Therefore, there are only a small number of local garrison troops stationed here, and the Northern 4th Fleet is more than a week away from here. I have a preliminary idea now. We must find a way to do a big deal and make Nicholas suffer. But I still need to continue to understand the situation. Only by knowing ourselves and the enemy can we win the battle. We are fighting away from home, so we can't be careless, Xia Xingchen said. The Evil Thought spacecraft arrived at the Gemini space station, which is a space station located between 2 planets. 5 people got off the spacecraft one by one. This is a paid dock, and the public security is relatively good. As soon as the 5 people walked out of the berth, a group of teenagers aged 14 or 15 gathered around them. Boss, are you here to buy beauties? I'm most familiar with the market here. Boss, I know where the slaves are the cheapest. Xia Xingchen pointed at one of the youngest children and said, "It's you. Take us around here." The other children left in disappointment. Xia Xingchen chose this child for a reason. First of all, this child looks quirky, especially his eyes, which are full of cleverness. Also, while the other children were vying to introduce themselves, he was carefully observing these people and the spaceship behind them. In addition, a youngest child can compete with other older children to grab business, and he is not at a disadvantage. That must be unique. Keela stepped forward and pointed at Xia Xingchen and said, "This is Boss Axing. What's your name?" "My name is Wang Ke," the child said. "Wang Ke? What a strange name." Born was very curious. "Sir, having a name is considered good among the residents of Gemini. This means that I'm not a slave. Though slaves only have code names, not names. My mother said that it is easier to raise a name with a cheap name," Wang Ke explained. Xia Xingchen asked, "Wang Ke, let me ask you, when they all rushed up to recommend themselves just now, why didn't you come up, but instead observed us? Why is that? Aren't you afraid that they will take away your business?" Reporting to this Master Axing, "First of all, I'm small and my voice is small. I will definitely not be able to compete with them if I go up with them. Second, I want to observe your purchasing power and identity to know whether you are here to buy slaves or have fun. Third, I want to confirm whether you are slave traders. There have been many cases of kidnapping and abduction of children here." Xia Xingchen nodded with satisfaction. From his answer, it can be seen that this is a very smart child. He went on to ask, "Where are your family? Why did you start doing this at such a young age?" "My parents are both passenger spaceship pilots, specializing in the Gemini to Siberia route. They didn't have time to take care of me, so I lived in the school dormitory. But I didn't like studying, so I skipped classes with my senior classmates to earn some extra money. Don't look at my young age. I can tell anything that happens on Gemini. Why don't your parents find a job close to home?" Master Axing, most of the work on this planet is done by cheap and high quality slaves, and the locals are simply not competitive. As a guide, how much do you charge? 5,000 star coins a day. Of course, you have to pay for the food, lodging and round-trip transportation when I take you to various places. The settlement is made daily. Xia Xingchen nodded. This price is very fair. His hand shook, and a smart payment card appeared in his hand. Xia Xingchen entered the amount of 5,000 and swiped it on the card in Wang Ke's hand. A prompt sounded, and the transfer was completed. "We want to stroll around Gemini and have a good time. By the way, we will take a look at the slave market and buy a few if we find something suitable." "Wang Ke, do you have any suggestions?" "Gentlemen, you have come to the right place. Gemini is also known as a man's paradise, and it is also known as the Heaven Star. Here, there are all kinds of beauties. As long as you have money, you can also taste the taste of alien beauties. Moreover, there is the largest death fighting arena in the galaxy, where you can see death fighting competitions with masters from all walks of life, as well as scenes of slaves fighting alien bugs. In addition, there are countless casinos of all sizes. But I don't recommend you to go there. Many people lost all their money there, were forced to borrow usury, and even sold themselves and their families to slave traders as slaves to repay their debts. Wang Ke introduced it in great detail and gave them advice very responsibly. Qile and Xia Xingchen were very satisfied with this. They had checked the reports about Gemini. There were countless tragedies of people losing fortunes and families in the casinos of Gemini. The casinos here would do anything to defraud gamblers and set countless traps for gamblers. Even these children who served as guides would receive very generous red envelopes if they led outsiders to the casino. So many guides tried their best to persuade their guests to go to the casino. The fact that Wang Ke could give them such advice showed that the boy had good character. If he took the initiative to take them to the casino, Xia Xingchen would definitely consider changing a guide. Several people took the shuttle bus of the space station to the spaceport and boarded the space shuttle to Gemini A, also known as Paradise. Chapter 312 The Four Great Families of Slave Trade. On the way to the atmosphere of Gemini A, Wang Ke introduced the current slave trade situation of Gemini to Xia Xingchen. There are four major forces that control the slave trade of Gemini or the entire Northern Empire. They are also called the four major families of Gemini. Among these four families, the largest is the Chen family. The patriarch is Chen Ziguan. Their Chen family almost controls the flesh trade of the entire Northern Empire and has opened countless brothels. The population trade of the Chen family is mainly based on beauties of various races. Combined with their flesh trade, their power is huge. Moreover, Chen Ziguan's wife is a woman from the Korovin family. The backstage behind their Chen family is the Korovin family. Moreover, every year the Chen family provides a large number of beauties to the Korovin family to help them improve their bloodline. The second largest family is the Xiumo family. The Xiumo family mainly deals in combat slaves, referred to as war slaves. For example, warriors, battleship pilots, mecha masters, mecha repairmen, spacecraft repair technicians and other combat auxiliary slaves. Their family also operates several death fighting arenas on Gemini. Every year, they make a lot of money from the death fighting competitions between slaves and the gambling and loan sharking industries derived from them. The third largest family is the Omaha family. The characteristic of their family is to win by quantity. In particular, a large number of miners and coolies are their main business scope. Their family has the largest slave hunting team in the entire galaxy, plundering and abducting people everywhere, and also cooperates with most of the star pirates. Some star pirates sell their plundered captives to the Omaha family. Of course, there is also the most special fourth family. Speaking of the fourth family, Wang Ke's face is a little ugly, and a ferocious look flows out of his young face. The fourth slave trading family is the Tequila family, and the patriarch is a guy named Takeda Yushin. He is a Japanese master crossing. You know the Japanese. This nation is an ancient nation on the earth, known for its cruelty, stubbornness, cunning and perversion. The business of their Tequila family is as dirty as their nation. They mainly sell human organs and even sell human flesh to some psychopaths for consumption. The Tequila family operates more than a dozen hunting grounds on Gemini B, also known as Hellstar, where as long as you are willing to pay, you can kill slaves like prey. In addition, the Tequila family also has a huge corpse processing factory, where they make the bodies of slaves into specimens or toys, to meet the special needs of some perverts. Almost everyone in Gemini hates the Tequila family, but the Tequila family pays the most money to Emperor Nicholas the Great every year, and 60% of their family's income goes into Emperor Nicholas the Great's pocket, so no one sanctions them. Moreover, the Tequila family has many dead men, and they do things without regard for the consequences. The other major families dare not provoke them. They are just a group of lunatics. I really hope someone can stand up and kill them. Xia Xingchen and Qi Li looked at each other. They both understood each other's thoughts. This Takeda Yuxin was already on their must-kill list. Arriving at Gemini A, they stayed in a space hotel on this planet. This hotel originally belonged to the Space Hotel Group. After the war between the two countries, the hotel was confiscated by the Northern Empire. Then Nicholas handed over all the space hotels in the Northern Empire to the Korovin family for operation. The Korovin family took 40% of the income, and the other 60% of the income went into Nicholas' pocket. In fact, it is not just the Space Hotel, but almost all branches of other interstellar consortiums in the Northern Empire have been annexed by Nicholas. Nicholas distributed these industries to his most loyal subordinates and let them run them, but he took the bulk of the profits. Despite this, his subordinates were still grateful, which shows how good Nicholas's ability to control his subordinates was. After the Northern Empire declared independence, the border between the two countries was blocked, which had a huge impact on the economy of Gemini. The slave trade volume of Gemini dropped by 60%, while the tourism and hotel industry turnover of Gemini dropped by 80%. A large number of hotels on Gemini A, known as the Paradise Star, were deserted. In order to survive, they could only reduce prices for promotions. Xia Xingchen and 5 others opened a conference suite with 6 independent guest rooms. The daily room rate was only 30,000 star coins. They also opened a standard room for 1k separately. They had something to discuss, and it was not convenient for 1k to know. After dinner, several people gathered at the dining table to discuss the next step. Xingchen, tell me, what are you going to do? Keeley asked Xia Xingchen. He admired Xia Xingchen's current overall view and strategic thinking. Xia Xingchen thought for a moment and said, now, what is the biggest weakness of the Northern Empire and Nicholas? Julian and Baum both shook their heads. One of them is an excellent pilot and the other is a bomb maniac, but asking them questions about the current situation is indeed a bit too much. Keeley said, is it time? Nicholas' declaration of independence was actually very hasty, and he had no time to prepare for war. We have to create some trouble to distract his energy. Hugo, what do you think? Xia Xingchen actually asked Hugo this question because Xia Xingchen found that Hugo was a very smart person. Since Hugo came into contact with human culture, he has read a lot of books. He has a very good memory and can almost remember everything he reads. Moreover, the content of Hugo's reading is very diverse. He reads books on astronomy, geography, science, and politics. Recently, he has become fascinated by the history of human wars. Xia Xingchen also wanted to test him. Hugo said expressionlessly, Xingchen, I recently saw a very good book. It was a book called Das Kapital written by a great philosopher on Earth before the Earth entered the space age. He discussed several viewpoints in this book. He said that the economy is the foundation, the economy determines politics, and politics serves the economy. The relationship between countries is determined by national interests, based on the economy. The reason why Nicholas wants to start a war is that the northern dignitaries headed by him need to obtain economic benefits through war, and seizing power is the best way to maximize economic benefits. However, Nicholas's weakness now is the economy. The Galactic Empire is not comparable to the Northern Empire in terms of economic development or economic size. What's more, the Galactic Empire has accumulated for nearly 1,000 years, and the treasury is full, while the Northern Empire has greatly overdrawn their economic potential in recent years by expanding its military and preparing for war. Now their wartime policies and issuing new currencies are even more like drinking poison to quench thirst, which will directly lead to the collapse of the northern economy. I think since Xingchen talked about Nicholas's life gate, it should be the northern economy, or the northern money bag. Xia Xingchen applauded. Well done, Hugo. Although you have never been to school, your performance is no worse than those scholars who have read great books. Xia Xingchen looked at Keeley and others and continued, here, the Gemini stars are Nicholas' important money bags. This time we must turn this place upside down, and let Nicholas thoroughly taste the feeling of being penniless. Chapter 313 Slave Collar. The next morning, 1K took 5 people out to play in Gemini. The hotel provided a large luxury magnetic levitation RV. As a planet with a developed tourism industry, it is normal for the hotel to provide such services. Besides, the tourism industry is very depressed now, so the rental price of the levitation car is very cheap. Their first stop is the administrative center of Gemini. As outsiders, they must first go to the administrative center to register. 1K explained that this is for their safety. Gemini is very dangerous. Many outsiders disappear here every year. They all become commodities of slave traders. Others fall into the hands of the Tequila family and end up even more miserable. Such things always happen, which also makes the government of Gemini very headache. Moreover, this has greatly affected the image of Gemini. Many people who want to come to have fun have given up coming to Gemini for safety reasons. So the government of Gemini and several large slave trading families have finally come up with a good idea after a lot of negotiations. They register every alien tourist who comes to Gemini and give each person a yellow bracelet. This bracelet can also emit a soft light at night. The smart chip on the bracelet records the tourist's personal identity, personal biometric verification information such as fingerprints and irises, the hotel where he stayed, as well as information about his companions and entry and exit information. In this way, he will not be mistakenly caught by slave traders. This method has also received enthusiastic responses from the slave families on Gemini. First of all, the safety of tourists coming here is guaranteed, and the number of tourists and the number of slaves purchased will increase greatly. In addition, their slave hunting teams kidnap tourists for money by any means, and have also kidnapped relatives of some imperial officials and big businessmen, which has caused great trouble for slave traders. Even the local residents of Gemini have to wear such bracelets, but their bracelets are sky blue. Of course, such measures do not mean that they can rest assured. Even if they have bracelets, it is still very dangerous for children and young and beautiful women to go out alone. After leaving the administrative center, each of them had an extra yellow bracelet on their left wrist. Several people did not take a car. There was a large slave trading center not far away. They walked towards it. There were crowds of people all the way, and it was very lively. Baum observed carefully. He asked, 1K, why do I see that most people on the street don't wear bracelets? Brothers, you can take a close look at those who are not wearing bracelets. Please look at their necks. After 1K's explanation, everyone's eyes turned to those people and found that those who were not wearing bracelets had a neck ring as thick as a little finger around their necks. This is a slave collar. Those who wear these collars are slaves. The slave collar is very smart and powerful. It has a chip that records the information of the slave and the slave owner, and has powerful tracking and positioning functions. This smart collar can also change color. Those collars with white color indicate that the slave is for sale. Those with black color indicate that the slave already has an owner, but is not for sale. Those with red color indicate that the slave has escaped from the owner's control or the owner has activated the slave escape alarm device. When the black or white slave collar begins to flash between black and white, it means that the energy remaining in the collar is less than 48 hours. At this time, the collar will send an alarm to the slave owner's personal terminal. The slave must go to the charging station to charge immediately. If it is not charged for more than 24 hours, the collar will change color and flash red. At this time, the slave owner only needs to gently press a button on the personal terminal, and the slave collar will explode. Of course, the explosion power is not large, it can only blow off the slave's head. If it is not charged for more than 48 hours, it will also explode. After listening to his introduction to this, several people showed disgust in their eyes. Baum was the only one who got excited when he heard that there was explosives inside. He took out his personal terminal and looked it up on the local area network, but after looking at the structural diagram, he found it boring. There are 4 soybean-sized explosives on the slave's collar, embedded inside the collar. Once the slave attempts to escape or forcibly removes the collar, this thing will explode in a directional manner and blow off the slave's head. It is definitely an extremely vicious thing, but it does not have a very high technical content. Keele quietly leaned over to Xia Xingchen and said, Xingchen, what do you think if we put this thing on the slave owner's neck? We think alike. Xia Xingchen nodded. 1K, where can I buy this thing? It's this collar. Xia Xingchen asked. Reporting to Master Crossing, this thing is sold in all slave trading markets, 10,000 star coins each. A collar comes with an independent key. When the key is inserted into the personal terminal, the corresponding slave collar control program will be automatically installed. This key is required to remove the collar and trade slaves. Several people did not take a car, but just walked on the road. Gemini is very prosperous, but it feels very monotonous after looking at it for a long time. There are hotels, brothels, casinos, nightclubs and large and small slave trading centers everywhere. Even on the street, there are countless slaves of various colors with white collars standing on the roadside for sale. These roadside slaves are not supervised by slave owners, but buyers and slaves negotiate business on their own. If the deal is settled, the slaves will take the buyers to the slave owners to pay the money to complete the transaction. This is probably also the credit of the slave collar. With this thing, there is no need to worry about the slaves escaping. And the slaves are also very hard working. They must find a way to sell themselves within 3 months. Otherwise they will be sold to the tequila family at a low price and become the prey of those perverts. Because slave owners will not raise them for nothing, slaves who cannot create value must be eliminated. Anyway, a large number of new slaves will be added every day. At this time, a huge building far ahead came into view. Boss axing, the building you see in front of you is called Golden City Hotel. It is the landmark building on the Heaven Star, Gemini A. 1K introduced them. Several people continued to move forward, and 2 towering buildings in front of them came into view. The buildings look golden and towering. Chapter 314 Golden City. The Golden City Hotel is a double body building. Each single building is a bamboo shoot shaped building that is 2,800 meters high. The thickest part of each bamboo shoot has a diameter of more than 500 meters. The bottom of the bamboo shoot is connected to a rectangular machine base. The Golden City is called the Golden City because its entire building is plated with several layers of gold. Gold is the single substance form of the chemical element gold. It is a soft, golden, corrosion-resistant precious metal. At the same time, gold is one of the rarest, most precious and most valued metals. Before humans entered the space age, it was an equivalent reserve of currency. It is also a jewelry that countless women are obsessed with. Gold is extremely ductile. 1 ounce of gold can be stretched into a length of 50 miles. Its ductility makes it easy to cast and is a good choice for making jewelry. Gold has the strongest tensile strength among all metals. In addition, gold's malleability is second to none. It can be made into extremely thin gold sheets that are easy to roll up. 1 ounce of gold can be hammered to a thickness of 1/4 million of a foot and an area of 100 square feet. Ancient people hammered it into thin sheets to decorate temples and palaces. All of this shows that gold is extremely flexible and malleable. The color of gold is golden yellow with a metallic luster and is difficult to decompose. The hardness is 223, pure gold is 19.3, and the melting point is 1064.4. It has good ductility and can be pressed into thin foil. It has extremely high thermal conductivity and electrical conductivity. The resistance of pure gold is 2.4 p. Pure gold has good resistance to chemical corrosion and is the best electroplating material. As a precious metal, gold has good physical properties. True gold is not afraid of fire means that gold is not easy to melt under ordinary flames. It has a high density and feels very heavy. It has good toughness and ductility and good conductivity. Pure gold has a bright yellow color, but the color changes greatly after being mixed with other metals, such as gold copper alloys are dark red, and silver containing alloys are light yellow or grayish white. Gold is easy to be ground into powder, which is why gold is dispersed in nature. Pure gold jewelry is also easy to be worn and lose weight. The Golden City in front of us is shining in the sunlight because it is coated with many layers of extremely thin films. The gold film reflects the sunlight very strongly, and the whole building is shining with gold, which brings a strong visual impact. For this design, the whole building uses thousands of tons of gold. The gold reserves on the earth are very small. It is precisely because of the scarcity that gold has become a metal used as a currency to preserve value. Later, humans entered space and found that the content of gold in the vast universe is not less. The content of gold on many asteroids and space meteorites even exceeds 50%. Despite this, in the space age, gold is no longer a precious metal, but the price of gold is now about the same as the price of aluminum alloy on the earth at that time. In addition, the processing cost of stretching gold into a film is definitely an astonishing expense. How much power and financial resources are needed to build such an extremely luxurious building? Several people were amazed. 1K went on to introduce, of course a force cannot be established. Otherwise, with such a huge investment, it would be destroyed by competitors before it is built. No family can afford such a loss. It is said that this was led by the Northern Empire government and jointly funded by the Chen family and the Zumo family, the two largest slave trading families on the planet. After the hotel is completed, Emperor Nicholas the Great will take 50% of the profits, and the rest will be divided equally between the two families. This is too unprofitable. With such a huge investment, the bulk of it was taken away by others. How many years will it take to get a return on investment? Boom counted on his fingers for a long time, but couldn't figure it out. Wang Ke smiled bitterly. Brother Boom, you don't know that this Golden City Hotel is a money-making machine. The upper part of the hotel is a 7-star hotel and nightclub, and the lower part is a casino and the largest female slave trading center on Paradise Star. The underground buildings are dozens of death-fighting arenas and combat slave trading centers. Countless guests come to stay, have fun, gamble, watch death fighting, and buy slaves every day. Moreover, the same slaves, after being packaged in the Golden City Hotel, can be sold at a price that is almost 20% higher. This hotel has been established for 24 years, and in fact, the hotel has paid back its investment just 3 years after it started operating. Its ability to make money is evident. And the scary thing is that, even though the two countries have gone to war and the tourism industry on Paradise Star has been hit hard, the business volume of this hotel has not decreased much. Although the demand for buying beautiful women and ordinary slaves has almost been halved, the demand for combat slaves has grown exponentially. Xia Xingchen thought for a moment and said, this is actually easy to understand. This place is far from the border and there are no strategic targets that are targeted. There are also various slaves to buy. It is a good choice for some wealthy people who are good at odd jobs to choose to escape the war here. Arriving at the Golden City Hotel and entering the lobby, several people were shocked by the magnificent decoration here. Xia Xingchen is now a person who has seen the world. He often goes to the palace and the mansion of the Krupp family, but none of them are as luxurious as this. The walls of the entire lobby are covered with gold foil, and there are more than a dozen huge crystal chandeliers on the ceiling. A large group of beautiful women in gorgeous costumes are warmly welcoming every visitor. Wang Ke explained to Xia Xingchen at this time, the Golden City Hotel adopts a membership system. The minimum charge here is 10,000 star coins per person. A tour guide will take you to take a quick look at the entire hotel, and then it's over. This is the least recommended way for you to play. I suggest you apply for membership. This is more economical. Xia Xingchen came to a magnificent lobby of the Golden City Hotel, and Wang Ke introduced the charging standards here. Then apply for membership of the Golden City Hotel. Members have levels of 100,000, 1 million, 10 million, all the way to 100 billion. Members must pay this money to apply for membership for the first time. This amount will be counted into the membership card and can be used for consumption in the hotel and a purchase of slaves in the hotel. After consumption, you can continue to recharge. When your membership level reaches the next level, the membership level will be automatically upgraded. The minimum consumption standard here is 10,000 star coins per person, and the tour guide will take these people to take a quick look at the facilities of the entire hotel, and then it's over. Of course, even such a rough visit takes a whole day, and the hotel can also provide 2 meals. Chapter 315 Entering the Hotel. Only members with more than 1 million members are eligible to bring in 5 or fewer non-members. To bring in more people, you must have a higher membership level. Xia Xingchen went to the lobby to apply for a membership card worth 10 million star coins, and booked 2 rooms here, a luxurious conference suite and a single standard room. Although the Northern Empire has issued new currency, the new currency is not as useful as waste paper in the Golden City Hotel. Only star coins are hard currency. Unlike other hotels and casinos, the Golden City Hotel did not give red envelopes to tour guides like Wang Ke, because this is almost a must-visit place for all tourists who come to Paradise Star. These children who are tour guides are only eligible to follow the guests for free. Because they have applied for membership, the hotel sent them a beautiful female tour guide. This female tour guide has a pink collar around her neck, which is very unique. She is also a slave. For beauty, the hotel specially customized a batch of collars for them. For members of Xia Xingchen's level, the female tour guide will meet any of his requirements. Hello, distinguished guests. I'm Xia Xingchen. I will serve you specially. If you need me to do anything, just tell me. The waitress with black hair, tall figure and wearing a short skirt greeted enthusiastically. Xia Xingchen smiled. What fun places are there here? There are many fun places. There are casinos, death arena, nightclubs, and if you want to rest, there are guest rooms. Of course, there is also me. The waitress Xiaolin's charming eyes were shining, seducing Xia Xingchen. Although Xiaolin was already a very beautiful beauty, she was still far inferior to the women around Xia Xingchen, and Xia Xingchen was not interested in her at all. Take us to the death fighting arena. I heard that this is the highest level death fighting arena in the entire galaxy. Xia Xingchen has been admiring this place for a long time. After all, death fighting is illegal in other parts of the galaxy. Do you want to see mecha fighting or real fighting? The mecha fighting venue is 100 kilometers away, and we have a special maglev car to go there. Xiaolin said. Let's watch the real fight first. Okay, please go this way. Xiaolin led them through the lobby and came to a huge room where hundreds of high-speed elevators were running up and down. Xiaolin led them to an elevator. The elevators here are also divided into levels. The higher the membership level, the more luxurious the facilities in the elevator. And there is no need to queue. The people who paid 10,000 star coins for the tour fee are still queuing up. The elevator went down for dozens of meters and came to a huge underground space. There are conveyor belts here, sending tourists to various arenas of different sizes. The underground facilities of the Golden City Hotel cover a very large area, 500 meters deep and 2,000 meters in radius. There are a total of 99 death arenas of varying sizes underground. Every day, a large number of slaves fight for life and death in the arena, or fight with alien creatures. In addition to enjoying the blood-pumping fights, the audience can also participate in betting. If they see a slave they like, they can participate in the auction, and the highest bidder wins. Of course, if the membership level is too low, it is impossible to enter the arena with a higher number. Xiaolin took out the reader and searched, and took them to arena number 068, which met Xia Xingchen's membership level and had vacancies. This arena can accommodate 2,000 people. In the middle of the arena is a circular platform with a diameter of 15 meters. The platform is more than 2 meters above the ground. The outer perimeter of the platform is thick bulletproof glass to prevent the audience from being accidentally injured. Now, this arena is almost full, with only a few empty seats at the back. Xia Xingchen frowned and said, "Is there no better seat?" Xiaolin replied, "Boss Axing, we also have private rooms here, with large screens and VR glasses. It is more shocking than watching directly at the side of the arena, but it costs 50,000 star coins each time. We should be able to call a large private room that can accommodate 8 people." Xia Xingchen nodded and handed his membership card to Xiaolin. "Okay, just as you said, get us a private room." Xiaolin took Xia Xingchen's membership card to prepare the room. In a short time, a large private room was ready. The group walked in. The room was about 9 or 10 square meters in size, with 8 luxurious seats in 2 rows, and a huge curved screen on the wall in front. The screen was broadcasting a multi-camera live broadcast of the death fight on the field. The small screens on the walls on both sides showed the detailed information and numbers of the 2 participating teams. Xiaolin patiently explained to them how to use the facilities in the private room. There was a card slot and a display screen on the armrest of the luxurious chair they were sitting on. Just insert a personal payment card or hotel membership card to participate in the betting. The audience can choose their favorite players on the screen and enter the betting amount, which will be automatically deducted. After the game, the prize money will be refunded to the membership card or personal payment card. Of course, if you use the money in the membership card to pay, the winnings deposited into the membership card cannot be withdrawn and can only be used for consumption in the hotel and the purchase of slaves. Although there is no consumption limit when paying with an ordinary payment card, 5% of the bonus will be deducted as a handling fee. Moreover, the bonus won with the membership card will be included in the member's total recharge amount after it is deposited into the membership card. And there is no handling fee. If a viewer is optimistic about a slave, he can enter the slave auction page through this screen and bid for the slave. Each slave has a reserve price. As long as the bid is higher than this reserve price, the slave will stop entering the next game. After 10 minutes, if there is no higher bid, the system will automatically deduct the money from the card, and a special staff will send the slave's identity certificate and the key of the slave's collar. Xia Xingchen and others watch the fighting competition live on the big screen in front of them with interest. Xia, the level of these fighting players is that the higher the number of the arena, the lower the level of the players? Xia asked. This question is really not easy to explain. Let's put it this way, the fighting arenas from number 70 to number 99 are all low-level slaves. They have basically not received professional training. Most of them are old, weak, sick and disabled slaves who can't be sold, and those who have made mistakes. However, the fights between these people are more bloody and shocking, and these venues often hold competitions between slaves and alien beasts and insects, which are more bloody and cruel, but more likely to attract attention. Moreover, most of the spectators in those venues are poor people, so the attendance rate is higher, and the gambling is more interesting. Chapter 316 Terrible Ivan. The remaining arenas from number 69 to number 11 are all of similar quality. Many slave owners book them for competitions to promote their own war slaves. Some slave owners also bring their war slaves to other slave owners for gambling regularly. Arenas number 1 to number 10 are all large arenas and are generally not open to the public unless there is a very important competition or a VIP is coming. Baum asked. Xia, you just said that some slave owners will book them. So will there be slave owners who manipulate their slaves to fake competitions to drive up prices and manipulate the odds? Xia smiled and said, please rest assured, sir. The reputation of the Golden City Hotel is there. The two major shareholders of the hotel are very powerful in the Heaven Star. They will not allow such a thing that seriously affects the reputation of the hotel to happen. Because if customers are deceived by this, they will not come again next time. If the hotel finds out that a slave owner has done such a thing, it is a small matter to impose a huge fine on him that is enough to bankrupt him. It is very likely that he will play in the next death fight. The matches on the fighting stage were very intense. Some matches were over in just a few seconds. The next match would start 15 minutes after the end of one match. Some matches were evenly matched and would last for dozens of minutes until one side fell to the ground and died of exhaustion. The opening hours of the various death fighting arenas in the hotel were not fixed, but it was guaranteed that there would be death fighting matches at all times of the day. Xia Xingchen watched, constantly weighing the fighting power of the slaves in front of him in his mind. An idea slowly formed in his mind. Xia and others also began to place bets. Xia had a very sharp eye. Before each match, there would be a 10-minute player introduction session. He could determine which one was more likely to win, based on the player's physical characteristics and their previous game videos. 2 hours passed in a blink of an eye. Under his keen guidance, a total of 8 matches were held on the field. He guessed the results of 7 of them. Baum and Julian both followed his bets and made a small fortune. Another round of competition ended. One of the 2 slaves on the stage died, and the other was seriously injured. The seriously injured one had a broken arm. This was what the slave owners did not want to see the most, because the seriously injured slaves were not worth saving and could not be sold. The slave owners would not pay for their treatment. They could only let them fend for themselves. Some slave owners even sold the injured slaves directly to the Tequila family. Their own slaves lost the game, and the slave owners could only get a little compensation from the gamblers' bets. At this time, the lights in the venue suddenly went out. The host on the field suddenly got high, as if he had taken drugs. The next game will be a highlight. This is a game that is enough to get the number 1 death fighting arena. This game will be broadcast live to all other arenas, the entire Golden City Hotel, and even the entire Heaven Star. You now have 15 minutes to place your bets. Now I will introduce the players of this game to the audience watching this game on site and online. The first one is the warrior from Hellstar, Gemini B-Star, the terrifying Ivan, the cruel Ivan, the Ivan who likes to tear his opponent apart and suck his opponent's flesh and blood. Ivan is 23 years old this year. He is 205 centimeters tall and weighs 150 kilograms. He was born in the death training camp of the Xiumo family on the Hellstar. It is a place dedicated to training devils. countless children with fighting talents have received extremely harsh training there since childhood, and they can only survive by killing all their companions in the graduation exam. The survival rate there is 1 in 300. However, all those who come out of the death training camp are top-notch masters in killing machines. This game is Ivan's 101st game. Before this, he had won every game. Another important news is that, after winning this game, Ivan will be released from the non-sale list, which means that you have the opportunity to get such a powerful warrior to be your patron saint. Think about it, the war is about to start. No matter how much money you have, it will be meaningless if you lose your life. Now, prepare your wallets. The lights on the scene came on, and a giant man over 2 meters tall appeared in the center of the arena with a roar. He was wearing leather shorts, leather boots, and a naked upper body. He had a breastplate tied diagonally on his chest, and metal knee and elbow pads on his knees and elbows. His limbs were as thick as 4 big pillars. Ivan held a short-handled battle axe with a 1-meter-long handle. The bloodstains on the axe had probably never been wiped off, and it was black and mottled. The enthusiasm of the scene was instantly aroused. The audience shouted loudly, "Ivan! Ivan!" Most of the people who could watch the live game in this arena were senior members and old customers, most of whom had watched Ivan's many games. Ivan's games were very entertaining. He often used a huge axe to behead his opponent, and then sucked his brain and blood. He even often tore his opponent apart alive, took out his opponent's heart and ate it, so that many opponents later collapsed to the ground in fear when they saw Ivan. The reason why the Xiaomo family is pushing him into the market now is to hype him up, and the price will naturally rise. After all, the rule of the death arena is to kill one side. The record of winning all battles is enough to explain everything. The host pressed down with both hands. Silence, silence. A great warrior will be matched with a great opponent. Today, contestant Ivan has met a strong opponent. His opponent is Ms. Yangma, who has won 105 victories. The scene immediately became chaotic. Some audiences howled excitedly, while others whispered. The host then introduced, Yangma is a warrior of the Terami people from Furuxing in the Western Administrative Region. She is 189 centimeters tall and weighs 83 kilograms. She is only 16 years old this year, and is still a little girl. The Terami people are natural warriors. Although they have not received combat training, the Terami people are natural warriors. Now, Yangma has won 105 victories. I hope she won't be scared to pee her pants, because the ferocious Ivan, the terrifying Ivan, is opposite her. The people in the audience burst into laughter. This is a bad nature of human beings. They always think that human beings are the masters of the universe. A beam of light lit up again in the center of the arena. Chapter 317. Yangma. Xia Xingchen and others were watching the death fight match in Arena 68 on the basement floor of the Golden City Hotel. At this time, a shocking scene appeared on the field. A 16-year-old Terami girl named Yangma appeared. The spotlight above the arena lit up, and Yangma appeared in the center of the field in horror. She was tall and well proportioned, with a pair of slender thighs and delicate and beautiful features. Even from the perspective of human aesthetics, she was a beauty. Many spectators with lustful hearts were even ready to make a move. Yangma held a small round shield and a short spear in her hands, and kept muttering something in her mouth, with a very terrified expression on her face. Seeing this, Yugo stood up, axing, I beg you, by her. She kept saying, don't come over, I don't want to hurt you. Although we Terami people are brave and good at fighting, we are not killing machines. I can't watch our kind like this and remain indifferent. Xia Xingchen stood up and patted his shoulder, motioning him to sit down. Then he opened the auction interface on the screen, only to find that the names of the two people on the field were gray and could not be selected. Xiaolin, what's going on? Xiaolin glanced at the screen and said, this Mr. Crossing, we are in the competition now, and the slave auction system has not been opened yet. You can only participate in the auction after the winner is decided. Xia Xingchen helplessly grabbed Yugo's hand. Brother, please be patient. As soon as the game is over, I will go to take pictures of her, as soon as possible, no matter how much it costs. The host continued, today's game Ivan's odds of winning are 1.12, and Yangma's odds of winning are 1.21. Have you made your choice? Now, Enter the countdown to the game. The boiling sound of the audience on the field has reached its peak at this time, and the big screen at the top of the arena began to count down. When the count reached 0, the transparent thick bulletproof glass that originally separated the two players in the center of the field dropped to the ground. Ivan howled, swung the short-handled battle axe with one arm, and rushed towards Yanma. Although Yanma didn't want to kill, the huge threat to her life made her pupils shrink into a slit. She could feel the great power of Ivan's axe, so she didn't dare to collide with him and hurriedly dodged. Ivan was relentless. Since he had the upper hand in momentum, he took advantage of the victory and attacked one move after another. For a while, Yanma was in danger. Although the Terami people had advantages over humans in many aspects, she was much thinner than Ivan. If Ivan hit her, she would be fatally injured. She could only rely on her own flexibility to deal with him. Xia Xingchen and the others were so nervous that Julian asked, "Axing, Ale, do you think that Yanma can win?" Xia Xingchen and Keela did not speak, "But you go on," said him. "I believe Yanma will win. For hundreds of millions of years, we Terami people have been competing for living space with monsters that are much stronger than us, so the Terami people have never lacked the experience and wisdom to defeat the strong with the weak. Just wait and see." 3 minutes passed in the blink of an eye, and Ivan still couldn't touch a hair of Yanma. He became a little impatient. In the previous competitions he had experienced, the battles were resolved within 20 seconds. He had never heard of such an opponent as this. So he got ruthless and used his fighting skill, the wind axe. He swung the axe with both arms, and huge forces surged into the axe, which actually produced wind blades. Yanma was not careful and was hit by the wind blade on her short spear. The short spear made of hardwood was cut in half, and a few of her hair was swept away by the wind blade. Yanma was shocked and quickly threw away the broken spear. She used a small round shield to protect her body, blocked the incoming wind blade, and continued to fight with Ivan. The experience of the Terami people in fighting wild beasts for hundreds of millions of years told her that when she encountered an opponent stronger than herself, she must be calm and patient to fight with the opponent in order to have a glimmer of hope. At this time, beads of sweat had already seeped out of her head, and in the private room of the audience, Xia Xingchen, Yugo and others were also sweating for her. Ivan's explosive fighting style lasted only 1 minute, and he began to be overwhelmed. The speed of swinging the axe in his hand gradually slowed down. Strength is his forte, and his speed is not inferior to that of ordinary warriors. But after all, his weight is there, and he even has to do twice as much work as ordinary warriors to do the same action. At this time, his head was steaming, which was formed by the large amount of sweat pouring out and being evaporated by his extremely high body temperature. Unconsciously, Ivan's movement slowed down, which was the inevitable result of excessive physical consumption. Yanma's eyes lit up. This was the moment she had been waiting for. The opportunity finally came. Ivan raised his axe again, but this time he was a little slower. During this period of continuous attack, Yanma was familiar with his attack methods and rhythm. Any warrior has limited means of attack. When facing an evenly matched opponent, they will instinctively choose the most stable and sure attack method, which is not easy to reveal flaws. However, for martial arts masters, this is the biggest flaw. And from the beginning, Yanma has been observing Ivan's every move and the changes in his muscles, so that Yanma can judge his next move from his muscle changes. Now, Ivan habitually raised his battle axe with both hands. Here, he would have a pause, waiting for the blood in his body to flow to his arms to emit wind blades. Originally, this pause was very short, but Ivan's physical strength decreased at this time, which made this pause last a little longer. Yanma had been waiting for this opportunity. When she saw Ivan's muscles move, she knew that Ivan could not change his moves. When Ivan's axe was raised, but not yet at the highest point, Yanma's body curled up, like a cat gathering strength before attacking. When Ivan's axe was raised to the highest point, Yanma's body jumped out, and all the strength of her body was concentrated on the small round shield in front of her arms. The center of the round shield just hit the root of the handle of Ivan's short-handled battle axe. The sudden impact made Ivan unable to hold the weapon. The short axe slipped out of his hand under the violent impact, flew 7 or 8 meters away, and landed on the edge of the fighting platform. At this time, his arms were numb, and the knuckles had been cracked, and blood was flowing out. Yangma threw away the round shield. Although that thing could increase defense, now that the opponent had lost his claws, there was no point in using a shield, and it would also affect speed. Yangma rushed forward and used a combo. Before Ivan could recover from the numbness in his arm, he was hit by Yangma several times. He was also slightly injured. The situation was reversed immediately. Yugo and others were relieved. However, Xia Xingchen still frowned. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318 Fierce Fight. The girl from Terami, Yangma, was having a fierce battle with the terrifying Ivan, a war slave trained in the devil training camp of the Xiumo family. Yangma responded calmly in a very unfavorable situation and finally knocked the short-handled battle axe in the opponent's hand away. She threw away her shield, rushed up, and hit him with a powerful combo. Ivan could only cope with it awkwardly. At this time, Xia Xingchen asked the female tour guide worriedly, "Xia Olin, this Ivan is a killing machine carefully cultivated by the Xiumo family. The Xiumo family has invested so much energy. Once he is killed by Yanma, will the Xiumo family retaliate and vent their anger on Yanma?" Hearing Xia Xingchen's concerns, Yugo also became nervous. Xia Olin smiled and said, "Master Axing, you can rest assured. Although Ivan is powerful, the Xiumo family will train tens of thousands of war slaves of his level every year. If they retaliate for such a small matter, it will be too disappointing for other businessmen. So don't worry, the Xiumo family will not be dissatisfied with Yanma's victory. This is already a common thing." After hearing her answer, everyone's hearts were finally put down. At this time, the situation on the field suddenly changed. After Ivan's arm was paralyzed, he risked his body to be injured and forced to take a few punches from Yanma with his body. He grabbed Yanma's fists with both hands and spread them apart with force, so that Yanma could not continue to attack with both hands, and the distance between the two people was also shortened. Ivan smiled cruelly. He wanted to use his trick to kill this hateful alien girl, but this girl looked pretty good, and it seemed that the corpse was not bad to vent her anger. Ivan's trick was his big bald headbutt. He practiced a martial art from ancient Earth, Ironhead Kung Fu. After long-term hard training, his skull became extremely hard, like an iron hammer. He practiced this martial art to give his opponent a fatal blow when his hands and feet were restrained. He had been practicing this move secretly since he was a child. He didn't know how much hardship he had endured, but he finally made some progress. In the competition in the death training camp, he eliminated 7 or 8 competitors with this move. However, the first 100 opponents he encountered in this arena were too weak, and he didn't even bother to use this move. But now, he had to use it. If he dragged on like this, he would die from exhaustion. Ivan exerted force with his arms, separated Yangma's arms, and pulled her body towards his body. Then his waist and neck muscles contracted violently, and he swung his head like a hammer. The head of the hammer was Ivan's forehead, and it smashed down on Yangma's head from above. At this time, he seemed to have seen the scene of his opponent's brain bursting, or his neck being broken. However, Ivan miscalculated. He made a serious mistake, because he ignored that the opponent in front of him was a Terami. The Terami people have hard horny bone spurs on their knees and elbows, especially on their heads, which have hard horny bones. After hundreds of millions of years of reproduction, the Terami people's heads are their most powerful weapons. The Terami people's head hammers can even split mountains and crush rocks. I don't know how many monsters have died under their heads. Ivan's iron head skull only strengthens the strength of some head bones and the muscles of the neck and waist. This is far from the physical instincts evolved by the Terami people in hundreds of millions of years of fighting. It's like the fastest swimming human swimming speed is far behind the fastest swimming fish. Facing Ivan's head hammer, Yanma finally smiled, and Yugo was completely relieved. Seeing the head hammer coming, Yanma lowered her head slightly and aimed the hardest horny bone on her head at Ivan's forehead, and at the same time, her feet exploded, and she jumped up with force. Pa! The sound of bones cracking came from the center of the venue, and then Yang Ma kicked Ivan's body. He thought Ivan's head was hitting an egg with a hammer, but he didn't know that his head was the egg, and Yang Ma's head was a hard stone. Under the huge collision, Ivan's skull was shattered, and his brain was instantly shattered into brain matter. The brain structure of the Terami people is different from that of humans. They can withstand huge impacts, and various related body tissues have evolved outside their brains to play a role in buffering and shock absorption. Ivan fell to the ground, and his vital signs disappeared. The arena judged Yang Ma the winner. The scene was suddenly silent, followed by the angry curses of countless people. Due to the arrogant nature of human beings, and the blind trust in the strength of the war slaves trained in the death training camp, most people bet on Ivan's victory. The results surprised them, and many people suffered heavy losses, and lost all their money. Xia Xingchen opened the auction interface on the monitor again, and found that Ivan's avatar was lit, but 2 red fonts death appeared on his photo, and his reserve price became 1000 star coins. Since the contestant was dead, but his body was still there, what was auctioned now was Ivan's body. After all, there are still some very perverted people in the world who are keen on making corpses into specimens for collection, selling, or using them for other disgusting things. For those powerful war slaves, their bodies are also very valuable. Selling the bodies can more or less make up for some of the losses of the slave owners. But what made Xia Xingchen feel helpless and go uneasy was that the avatar of Yang Ma was also grey and could not be selected. Seeing this, Xia said helplessly, generally, there are 2 situations in which the auction interface is grey and cannot be selected. The first is that the contestant is not a slave, and the second is that the participating slave is not for sale and is on the non-sale list. Some slave owners do not want to sell slaves, or do not want to sell slaves for the time being. Do we have any other way? Xia Xingchen asked. Xia thought for a while and said, then we can only find a way to contact the slave owner, and you go and talk to the slave owner in person. Xia, you go and contact the slave owner immediately. I want to discuss the purchase of the ma with him. This is not in line with the rules, and if you want to buy it privately, the other party will definitely ask for a high price. Xia looked embarrassed. Xia Xingchen said seriously, this matter is very important to me. Yugo is my brother, and things that are very important to him are also very important to me. Xia, if you do this beautifully, I will consider redeeming you and giving you freedom. Xiaolin's eyes lit up when she heard it. Her father owed a large gambling debt on Paradise Star, so he sold her to the Chen family for tens of thousands of star coins when she was very young. She worked as a tour guide at the Golden City Hotel when she was 16 years old. In order to leave here, she tried her best to please the guests, hoping that these guests would buy her. She is now 19 years old. If no one buys her by the age of 25, she will be sent to the lowest brothels and bathing centers to receive guests. Dozens of guests will be received every day. If she is still not sold by the age of 30, her fate will be even more miserable. She will be sent to the so-called beauty manufacturing center of the Chen family and become a tool for giving birth to children and creating the next generation of beauties. After a few years, when she loses her fertility, she will be dealt with by the Tequila family and become a target in the living hunting ground for people to hunt. Now that Xia Xingchen is willing to give him a chance, she is flattered and decides to seize this opportunity. Chapter 319 Difficult Negotiations. Rayla is a cunning slave trader. He doesn't have many slaves, but he is very smart. He funded the number 68 death fighting arena. He knows that the slave business on Gemini is getting harder and harder. If you want to make money, you have to be different from others and find another way. For example, Yang Ma is his masterpiece. Because he heard that the Terami people are brave and good at fighting and are the best race as war slaves. More than a year ago, his slave hunting team of more than 100 people sneaked into Furustar. They attacked a village of dozens of people. As a result, the slave hunting team armed with hot weapons suffered heavy losses in the face of the Terami people armed with cold weapons. In the end, they bribed a colonel of the local garrison and secretly provided the slave hunting team with 2 mechas to eliminate the Terami people. Unfortunately, Yang Ma became the only prisoner. It's just that the Terami people are too strong-willed. Rayla tried every means to force Yang Ma to surrender, but he had no choice but to throw her into the death fighting arena. However, he later discovered that, although Yanma was unwilling to actively hurt others, her counterattack was extremely threatening when in danger. Rayla took advantage of the humans' discrimination against aliens and contempt for a weak woman, and placed a heavy bet on Yanma to win. As a result, he reaped huge rewards in more than a year. The gambling income in this year was greater than the total profit he made from selling slaves in the previous 10 years. Although the odds of Yanma in today's game were only 1.21, he bet 1 billion star coins and earned nearly 200 million star coins. At this time, his subordinates came to tell him that someone wanted to buy Yanma. His first reaction was not to sell it. He didn't want to lose this hen that could lay golden eggs. But he thought again and decided to see the other party's offer first. For Ayla, there is nothing in this world that cannot be sold. Besides, it is not good to turn away guests when opening a business. So he agreed to meet Xia Xingchen in the reception room. There are multiple lounges and negotiation rooms next to each death fighting arena, which are convenient for buyers and slave owners to negotiate. Xia brought Xia Xingchen and others to the negotiation room 06802. When they walked into the room, they saw a fat man sitting behind a large negotiation table. He was full of fat and weighed more than 200 kilograms. Because he was too fat, his eyes were almost invisible. But when he saw Hugo sitting next to Xia Xingchen, his eyes lit up. He struggled to sit up straight, and the fat buttocks pressed the special chair under him to creak, as if it could fall apart at any time. He said with a smile on his face, "Nice to meet you, little brother. What can I do for you?" Xia Xingchen and others took their seats, and he said to Rayla, "My name is Xing. I'm here today to discuss a business deal with you, Boss Rayla. My brother Hugo is my savior. He couldn't bear to see his kind living such a cruel life of killing in the arena, so I want to buy Ms. Yama to keep my brother company. Please name a price." Rayla said, "Yama is my cash cow. She is not for sale. I will not sell her." Mr. Rayla, for you businessmen, there is nothing in this world that is not for sale. Just name a price. No, 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 Yama is priceless in my heart. How about this, brother Xing, you name a price. Maybe your price can impress me, Rayla said slowly, squinting his eyes. He knew very well that in the business world, whoever quotes first will fall into a passive position. But he seized on Xia Xingchen's desire for Yanma and forced Xia Xingchen to make an offer first. One price, 2 billion star coins. This price was thought of by Xia Xingchen in advance. Xia really put a lot of thought into making herself more eye-catching in front of Xia Xingchen. She found a way to get the information of Rayla and various data on slave trade on Gemini. In comparison, the strength of Yanma is actually similar to that of Ivan, but Ivan lost his composure because he was too anxious to kill Yanma. If he had a calmer opponent, it would be hard to say who would win. Xia got the data of slave trade in the Golden City Hotel in the past 3 years. For a war slave like Ivan who has won 100 victories, the auction price in the Golden City Hotel is generally between 500 million and 800 million star coins. The highest transaction amount is 1 billion star coins. Xia Xingchen felt that 2 billion star coins were enough to express his sincerity. After all, this price was enough to buy 2 general-purpose Death Vulture mechas. Rayla shook his head with difficulty. "Are you kidding, Boss Xing? Do you know how much money Yanma made for me in a year? 28 billion. That's 28 billion star coins. Why should I sell her? 2 billion. She earned it for me in 1 or 2 months. Xia Xingchen stared at Rayla's eyes, and although he still had a smile on his face, he said in a very cold tone, "Boss Rayla, do you think I don't know anything? The money you made from Yanma, except for a small amount of appearance fees, most of it was bet on Yanma yourself. You made 28 billion star coins, but 12 billion of them were from the Golden City Hotel. It's not enough to compensate you for almost all the bets on Yanma's games. And adding to the loss of the war slaves killed by Yanma in the Zumo family, there are nearly 10 billion. What's more, Yanma's winning odds were very high at that time, but now her winning odds can only get lower and lower. The risk is getting bigger and bigger, and the benefits are getting less and less. And I dare to guarantee that, if you keep betting like this, we will be able to see you fighting alien bugs in the arena in less than half a year." Xia Xingchen's words hit the nail on the head. What he said was exactly what Rayla was afraid of. In the past, the odds of Yangma were high, and even if you bet a few million or tens of millions of star coins, you could win hundreds of millions. Now you have invested 1 billion and only made less than 200 million. And once Yangma loses, the money will be wasted. Judging from today's game, Yangma has reached his limit. If the hotel sends a more powerful war slave to kill Yangma next time, he will have nothing. As a slave owner, he can buy his own slaves to win, but if he dares to buy his own slaves to lose, he will be close to death. Especially the two behind the scenes bosses of the Golden City Hotel, the Chen family and the Zumo family, their patience is limited. He has taken advantage of them again and again. If he angers them one day, he will really be dead. He is sure that what Xia Xingchen said will happen 100%. But he was really unwilling to sell Yanma like this. However, when he looked up and saw Yugo beside Xia Xingchen, he immediately came up with a plan. Chapter 320 Gambling. Xia Xingchen and others negotiated with the owner of Yangma, the slave trader Rayla. After Xia Xingchen threatened with both soft and hard tactics, Rayla's idea loosened, but he decided to exchange Yangma for more benefits. Boss axing, I will not sell Yangma. If your Mr. Yugo likes Miss Yangma, you can help me and sell Mr. Yugo to me so that they can be together. Rayla knew that Xia Xingchen would definitely not agree, and he did this to attack instead of defend. Yugo is my partner, we are as close as brothers, and I can't sell him to anyone. Mr. Rayla, let's not beat around the bush. You name a price. How much do I need to pay to take Yangma away? Xia Xingchen simply laid out his cards. Let's make a bet. Mr. Crossing, you want the Ma, and I want this Mr. Yugo. Let's make a bet. We will fight in the arena with our own abilities, and Mr. Yugo will participate in a few games in the arena. If he wins, I will give you the Ma for free. But if Mr. Yugo loses one of the games, even if you lose, Mr. Yugo will be my slave. Rayla finally showed his true colors. Xia Xingchen turned around and asked Xiaolin if there was such a rule. Xiaolin nodded and explained it to him. The personnel structure in the Golden City Hotel is complex, and various conflicts often arise. Like the Death Star Hotel, violence is not allowed here. If two people have a conflict, they must resolve it or vent it out. But what if violence is not allowed? So the hotel came up with a solution. The two parties in conflict applied for an arena from the hotel, and the two parties in conflict personally went on the field to fight and resolve it until one party killed the other. If there is a conflict between slave owners and they are unwilling to risk their lives, they can make a bet first, negotiate the terms, go to the hotel for record, and then let their slaves fight on their behalf. The losing party must fulfill the contract, otherwise they will be hunted down by the hotel. In the entire Paradise Star, no one dares to offend the Chen family and the Zumo family. After more than 10 years of practice, the bets between the conflicting parties have evolved into various forms. For example, what Rayla just said about passing 5 levels and killing 6 generals. When one party makes an unreasonable request to the other party, the party being asked has the right to propose a series of very difficult things for the other party to complete. If the party making the request does it, there is no way. The other party is much stronger than you, and you can only be willing to accept the loss. Xia Xingchen hesitated for a moment after listening to Xiaolin's explanation and said, "How do you want to bet?" Rayla was complacent. He knew that Xia Xingchen had taken the bait. We don't have to go through 5 or 6 levels. I will set up 4 arenas in the arena, and Mr. Yugo will fight alone. In the first level, Mr. Yugo will fight against 10 alien bugs. Long-range weapons and thermal weapons cannot be used. In the second level, Mr. Yugo will fight against Ms. Yanma. Of course, the winner is not determined by killing each other, but by subduing each other. In the third level, it is a mecha battle, in which Mr. Yugo will drive a mecha against a mecha driven by my mecha master. In the fourth level, Mr. Yugo will fight against 4 war slaves at the same time. How about these 4 bets? As long as Mr. Yugo wins, you can take Yanma away, and I will give you another 5 billion star coins. But if Yugo loses any of them, Yugo will be my slave, and you will lose me 5 billion star coins. If you disagree, we will go our separate ways. Rayla was very happy. The 4 levels he designed were full of traps. The 10 alien bugs in the first level are difficult for ordinary people to deal with. Only a powerful war slave like Ivan can barely win. If Hugo can't even pass this level, he will be of no value. The second is the consideration of human nature. Looking at Hugo's appearance, he may not be able to attack a girl, but as long as he does a little trick, he will attack Hugo without any scruples. The mecha battle in the third level is even more insidious, because everyone knows that the Terami people can't drive mechas at all, and Rayla decided to send out his ace mecha master, who is a C level mecha master. This is a game that Hugo can't win at all. The fourth level is just an insurance. If Hugo passes the first 3 levels by chance, then he will spend billions to buy 4 war slaves with the same level or even higher level as Ivan from the Xiumo family. In this way, even if Hugo has great skills, he can't escape from his palm. After hearing the bet conditions proposed by the fat man Rayla, Xia Xingchen and Hugo looked at each other. Xia Xingchen saw determination in Hugo's eyes, while Hugo saw trust in Xia Xingchen's eyes. Xia Xingchen nodded. Mr. Rayla, I agree with your bet. Let's go to the hotel to file it now. Let's start the game tomorrow. I hope you can keep your promise. Rayla's excited cerebral blood vessels almost burst after hearing this. He has now begun to think about how to continue to make big money with Hugo and Yanma. Xia Xingchen agreed to the bet proposed by the slave owner Rayla. The tour guide Xiaolin immediately called the hotel in the negotiation room. There was not much time left, so the hotel sent 3 mediators. In fact, the so-called mediator is to play the role of registering and witnessing the bet, and to witness the bet of both parties. Xia Xingchen and Rayla signed and sealed the drafted bet and uploaded it to the server of the Golden City Hotel for filing. Each of them deposited 5 billion star coins into the hotel's fund supervision account. The competition will start the next day, with 1 match per day, and the venue will be provided free of charge by the Golden City Hotel. In this kind of gambling competition involving slave owners, the players are very high level, and can attract a large number of spectators to place bets and watch. Just selling tickets and opening the market is enough to make the hotel earn a lot of money. So the hotel is also happy to provide them with convenience. Xia Xingchen and others returned to the room. The room rate here is twice as expensive as that of the Universe Hotel, but the facilities are also more luxurious. Xia Xingchen gave the membership card to Julian and Baum, and asked Wan K to take them out to have fun. Keela and Hugo were in the room studying countermeasures to deal with the bet. Chapter 321 Pre-War Preparation. Keela was worried. Xingchen, you are too impulsive. Can you agree to this bet? It's too dangerous. It's a complete trap. Keela didn't know Hugo's strength, so he was very pessimistic about this bet. Xia Xingchen said, I'm very confident in Hugo's strength. I'm not worried at all about the first game against the bugs in the third mecha battle. Hugo's current mecha battle level has reached the level of a C level mecha master. I'm not worried about these 2 games at all. As for the fourth game, if Hugo is careful, there should be no problem, because I can't see through his true strength now. But what I'm most worried about now is the second game. Hugo, will you be gentle with the pitiful Yanma when the time comes? Hugo smiled. Xingchen, please rest assured about this. You don't have to measure us Terami people with human emotions and thinking. Once the battle starts, our primary goal is to eliminate the threat as soon as possible. I think Rayla has the same idea as you. He doesn't know the Terami people well enough. Then I'm relieved. At this time, Xiaolin walked in. She had just gone out to get some information. Boss Axing, my sister just found out that Rayla just spent 500 million star coins to buy 10 stinging scorpions. He also paid 2 billion star coins to buy 400 battle slaves from the Xiumo family at one time. Stinging scorpions. Hugo slammed the table heavily. His eyes were red. Back then on Furustar, hundreds of stinging scorpions secretly deployed by Nicholas on Furustar attacked Hugo's village. It happened that Xia Xingchen and Father Free went there to retrieve the mecha parts hidden by Father Free. Xia Xingchen saved Hugo by the way, and Hugo pledged allegiance to Xia Xingchen. Hugo, don't get excited. You have to stay calm. Xia Xingchen comforted. Xingchen, I'm different now than I was back then. With my current strength, I can still escape unscathed, even if I face 100 stinging scorpions. Don't worry. The main weapons of stinging scorpions are a pair of indestructible claws and the highly poisonous sting on their tails. Of course, you can also use their weapons to induce them to attack their own kind in a melee. Stinging scorpions have hard shells. Ordinary cold weapons may find it difficult to hurt them, but their own claws and tail stings can easily pierce their shells. There are 2 weak points on stinging scorpions. The first is the head and chest of the stinging scorpion, where there are 6 compound eyes. The middle of the compound eyes is the most vulnerable part of its body. Another weakness is the excretion hole under the base of its tail. If a person fights with it, he can consider giving it anal sex. Xia Xingchen is very familiar with stinging scorpions, which are a specialty of Watchstar. He introduced the habits, characteristics, and weaknesses of stinging scorpions to Hugo in detail. This is a good thing. If it were another type of insect, it might really cause trouble to Hugo if he didn't understand it. The next day, the number 10 death fighting arena, which can accommodate 4,000 spectators, was open to the public. The entire venue was packed with people. As a participant in the competition, Xia Xingchen and others, and Rayla each received a free large private room. Rayla looked at the center of the venue excitedly. This bet was a sure win for him. Although he had thrown out 2.5 billion to buy stinging scorpions and war slaves, even if Hugo died in the battle, he could still make a net profit of 5 billion from the bet. Moreover, the 100 win war slaves bought from the Xiumo family, after a little packaging and letting them play 1 or 2 games, it would be easy to make 200 to 300 million by wrestling each one. The video of the stinging scorpion brutally tearing its prey apart was played on the big screen at the scene, and the enthusiasm of the audience was fully mobilized. The Golden City Hotel has a special breeding farm to raise these alien creatures for gladiatorial combat. The 10 stinging scorpions purchased by Raya are all the largest male adult individuals, each of which is 3 meters long and nearly 2 meters high. In order to keep them fierce, he specially selected 10 stinging scorpions that had not been fed for 3 days. If they were not separated, they would even kill each other. Because there were such dangerous creatures on the scene, today's competition venue, the 20-meter x 20-meter venue in the center of arena number 10, was surrounded by thick bulletproof glass, large electric grids and alloy guardrails. In addition, there were several miniature laser rapid-fire cannons above the competition venue. Once the stinging scorpions showed signs of attacking the venue barrier, lasers would be used to kill them to ensure the safety of the audience. The first person to come to the field was Hugo. The host on the scene did not have his information, only that he was 2 meters tall and weighed 96 kilograms. Hugo was wearing a combat suit tailored for him by Xia Xingchen today. It was made of polymer synthetic materials, very light and comfortable, and had strong protective power. Hugo had 2 of his beloved alloy daggers on his waist, and Xia Xingchen's Ningfeng sword on his back. Ordinary alloy swords could not break the shell of the stinging scorpion at all, nor could they withstand the attack of the stinging scorpion's claws. Xia Xingchen's sword was fine, so Xia Xingchen lent it to Hugo. The host announced the start of the game. The floor of a corner of the competition venue shrank to both sides, revealing a hole in the ground. A creature emerged from the hole. It was a stinging scorpion. The stinging scorpion, which had been hungry for 3 days, was now starving. It smelled the scent of human flesh more than 10 meters away, squeaked excitedly, and opened its claws to pounce on Hugo. In the number 10 death fighting arena under the Golden City Hotel on the Heaven Star, Hugo was facing the challenge of 10 ferocious stinging scorpions on the field. The game started, and a hole in the ground cracked in a corner of the venue. The stinging scorpions ran out one by one. They took turns rushing towards Hugo. These stinging scorpions had not eaten for 3 days, so each one was locked up separately to prevent them from killing each other. Xia Xingchen and others were sitting in the big private room. Several people were busy. Today, the odds of the scorpion winning were 1.19, while the odds of Hugo winning were 3.68. It seemed that the hotel was not optimistic about Xia Xingchen's victory. Xia Xingchen simply took out his personal payment card to place a bet. He bought 1 billion Hugo to win. If Hugo won, he could get about 3.5 billion star coins. In fact, according to Xia Xingchen's original idea, he planned to bet 10 billion star coins, but unfortunately the hotel's betting limit was 1 billion star coins. Chapter 322, Gambling. Keela bet 100 million star coins, while Julian and Baum each bet 2 million star coins, all betting on Wu Jie to win. After all, not everyone is as rich as Xia Xingchen. The first stinging scorpion that came out of the hole was very excited. Wu Jie pulled out the Ningfeng sword on his back and used a combat skill to face it. The Ningfeng sword in his hand slashed continuously, and a white cross-shaped light blade shot out from the sword. "Holy light cross sword," the audience exclaimed. Everyone, including Xia Xingchen, was shocked. This was the first time they saw aliens use human combat skills. Xia Xingchen didn't expect that Wu Jie always loved to study human martial arts and read books to study. He thought it was just Wu Jie's hobby. Who knew that this guy used human martial arts quietly, which was really impressive. In fact, this is thanks to Qin Ren and the old man. When Xia Xingchen was learning the combat skill of splitting the air and breaking the city hammer with Qin Ren and the old man on their family's island, Wu Jie was fighting against the Qin family's children every day. During the break, after fighting for more than 10 hours every day, the group of people got along well with Wu Go. They were also happy to communicate with Wu Go and taught him a lot of things. In fact, Wu Go had learned many martial arts from books and videos and kept them in mind, but he didn't know the key methods. Here, through the communication with this group of warriors, Wu Go broke through the last layer of window paper, and his martial arts progressed by leaps and bounds. Xia Xingchen had not had time to fight Wu Go with all his strength recently, and was not aware of his changes, and was also very surprised by his progress. The huge crosslight blade more than 1 meter long accurately hit the part between the 6 eyes of the stinging scorpion. The stinging scorpion screamed, and a large amount of white and green liquid mixed with the part hit sprayed out. That was the brain of the stinging scorpion. The stinging scorpion died on the spot. The Holy Light Cross Sword is a unique skill of the Church, an ancient religious organization on Earth. It is powerful and has a very shocking dazzling light and shadow effect, which can greatly deter the enemy. But at the same time, this move consumes a lot of physical strength. Even the strongest human warrior can only use it 3 times a day, and there are 10 stinging scorpions in front of him. At this time, the second stinging scorpion also rushed over with its claws. Wu Go jumped more than 2 meters high and stood on the head of the stinging scorpion. Woo wow. The audience was scared. Isn't this a suicide? The stinging scorpion felt offended. It raised its tail and aimed the more than half a meter long stinger at Wu Go standing on its head and stabbed it fiercely. The stinging scorpion's tail is nearly 2 meters long and has well developed muscles. The stinger at the tip of the tail is hard and highly poisonous and can even pierce the armor of the mecha. Looking at the stinger of the scorpion tail stabbing towards his stomach, Wu Go moved. He suddenly jumped diagonally upwards and narrowly avoided the attack of the stinger. Then he aimed the Ningfeng sword in his hand at the scorpion's tail and slapped it hard. With a loud pop, the stinger that was ejecting downwards was hit and changed its direction, and it actually pierced directly into its own eyes. The stinger's eyeballs burst, and its brain was injured. At this time, its stinger actually injected venom into its own brain instinctively. Highly venomous creatures like stingers and venomous snakes can also be killed by their own venom. It is actually quite common for venomous snakes to be killed by their own venom or the venom of their own kind. The body of a venomous snake has no anti-venom effect. The reason why it is safe most of the time is that its venom only exists in the venom sac at the root of its teeth and will not flow into its own blood for no reason. When the teeth bite the prey, the venom will be sprayed into the prey's blood circulation system to poison and kill it. In fact, if the venom flows into the venomous snake's own blood system, it will also be poisoned to death. The same is true for stingers. Especially when the venom enters its brain, the cells in the stinger's brain are instantly decomposed by the toxins, and it can't be deader. As soon as Wu Go landed, the third and fourth stingers pounced on him. Wu Go raised his sword and rushed to the left, so that the fourth sting scorpion was blocked by the third sting scorpion. The fourth sting scorpion was extremely angry because it had not eaten for 3 days and was already hungry. There was delicious live food in front of it, but it was blocked by this hateful guy in front of it. It really couldn't stand it. It raised its thorns and hit the road blocker in front of it, hitting the chrysanthemum. The third sting scorpion felt pain and turned around to wrestle with the guy who attacked it. For a while, The fragments of the carapace and the flesh of the sting scorpion flew everywhere, and soon the two guys were dying. Everyone was stunned. This actually took advantage of the nature of the sting scorpion, and Xia Xingchen told Wugo, because the people who came out of the watchtower knew the sting scorpion too well. They only had food in their eyes. For a sting scorpion like this, that had been hungry for a few days, even if there was a mecha in front of them, they would pounce on it without hesitation and tear up all obstacles in front of the food. After bypassing the two scorpions fighting each other, the remaining 6 scorpions were all released, and the entire arena seemed crowded. Wugo retreated to a corner. On both sides, and behind him were fences and electric nets full of high voltage electricity, so he was not afraid of being attacked from the front and back, and he only had to face 2 scorpions at the same time. Now, the 5th and 6th scorpions rushed over. They ran very fast, sprinting at high speed. Wugo squatted down and looked at the 2 scorpions coldly. Look, that blue monster is tired. It can't run away. Tear it apart. Most of the audience in the arena bet on Wugo to lose, so when they saw Wugo's action, they thought he was exhausted and gave up resistance. The scorpions were about to reach him, and Wugo suddenly kicked the ground with both legs, jumped more than 3 meters high on the spot, and jumped over the heads of the 5th and 6th scorpions. The 2 scorpions couldn't stop their feet for a while and hit the guardrail behind him. Millions of volts of high voltage instantly rushed into the scorpion's body. The sting scorpion screamed miserably, and bright electric sparks jumped happily on its shell. The sting scorpion was tightly attached to the guardrail by the current, and even smoke came out of its body. Wugo even smelled the aroma of barbecue. The remaining 4 sting scorpions stopped when they heard their companions scream. Although they are creatures with low IQs, they are born with a keen intuition about danger. They don't want to become barbecue like their companions. Wugo thrust the sword into the ground with force. The ground of the arena was made of alloy steel plates, and it was easily pierced by the Ningfeng sword. Seeing this, the remaining 4 sting scorpions did not dare to rush forward rashly, but slowly moved closer to Wugo. Chapter 323 Gambling. Wugo looked at the 4 stinging scorpions approaching slowly. He knew that it would be useless to repeat the old trick. However, he was not panicked. He put his hands on his waist, took out 2 daggers, and raised his hands. 2 cold lights flashed, and the 2 daggers hit the 2 stinging scorpions accurately between their eyes. The stinging scorpions screamed and rolled, and soon there was no movement. The audience was in an uproar. They doubted whether these vulnerable creatures in front of them were really stinging scorpions. They were killed so easily. Some people even cursed that they were deceived by the hotel and used such weak creatures to make up the number. There were only 2 stinging scorpions left. There was no pressure for Wugo. The 9th stinging scorpion rushed up first, and the huge claws fell on its head. Wugo dodged it with a flash, and the sharp sword in his hand swung and chopped at the root of the stinging scorpion's claws. Looking at Wugo's actions, Xia Xingchen's eyes lit up. From the way he exerted force, Xia Xingchen knew that he was using the water-breaking sword method. Xia Xingchen had explained the broken water sword technique to Wugo during their practice fight. In fact, he just wanted Wugo to learn more about human martial arts. As a result, Wugo actually learned part of it by analogy. Although he could not fully exert the power of the first level of the broken water sword, it was several times more powerful than ordinary attacks. Wugo slashed with his sword, and an invisible sword energy flashed by. The 2 claws of the stinging scorpion were cut off at the root. The stinging scorpion was in great pain and squeaked. The stinger on its tail stabbed at Wugo. Wugo swung his sword again and used the broken water sword technique. The place where the scorpion's tail connected to the stinger was cut off at the root. The stinger fell to the ground and kept twisting on the ground. The stinging scorpion screamed again. Its 2 most important weapons were lost. It knew that the person in front of it was not easy to mess with, so it turned and ran. Wugo raised his hand and thrust a sword into the excretion hole at the base of the scorpion's tail. When the sword was pulled out, all kinds of colorful liquids and internal organs spurted out of the scorpion's anus. The scorpion ran 2 steps and died on the spot. There was only 1 scorpion left. This scorpion looked 1/3 larger than the other 9 scorpions. Moreover, it was not in a hurry to attack Wugo, but was busy eating the corpse of its own kind. Xia Xingchen told Wu Go that the larger the size of a scorpion, the higher its IQ and the more cunning it is. Sure enough, the scorpion looked at Wu Go and did not take the initiative to attack. Instead, it stared at the human in front of it with its 6 eyes. Its thorns and tail stingers were all retracted, ready to make a fatal blow at any time. Last night, when Xia Xingchen, Qile and Wu Go discussed the countermeasures for today's game, Xia Xingchen suggested that Wu Go should try to retain his strength while ensuring that he would not be injured and leave himself more trump cards. But Qile proposed a different opinion. Qile pointed out that if it was somewhere else, Xia Xingchen's strategy would be fine, but they are now in the Northern Empire, a place where the strong are respected. If you can't show your superior strength, someone will come to you. So he suggested that Wu Jie should keep his trump card, but he must also establish his authority appropriately. He must show a certain amount of strength to deter those villains. Now, Wu Jie decided to adopt Qile's opinion and use the last stinging scorpion to establish his authority. In fact, this is the most in line with the survival philosophy of the Terami people. Wu Jie has been studying the application of human martial arts on the Terami people recently. Although humans and Terami people have different body structures, there are still many similarities, and those differences are not without replacement. Just like the first stage of Xia Xingchen's water-breaking swordsmanship, he also practiced it and made some progress. Wu Jie held the Ningfeng with both hands and made a starting posture. His movements looked slow, but only his opponent knew how much pressure Xia Xingchen's moves brought to them. Wu Jie moved, raised his body slightly, raised his 2 swords, and chopped down. The audience only felt a flash of sword light in front of their eyes. Wait, where did the sword light come from? Wu Jie's hand was clearly a dark and heavy sword. It turned out that the sword light was a move in the broken water sword technique, creation of heaven and earth. The scorpion on the opposite side did not seem to have changed at all, still waving its claws and teeth. Wu Jie put the sword back on his back. This Ningfeng sword is indeed an amazing weapon. It killed several scorpions, and there was no liquid or dirt on the sword. Wu Jie turned around and walked towards the 2 scorpions killed by the flying knives. The 2 daggers used as flying knives were very expensive, and Wu Jie was reluctant to throw them away. The scorpion saw Wu Jie turning around and wanted to take the opportunity to launch an attack, but found something wrong. Its body was actually split from the middle to the 2 sides, and blood, flesh and internal organs gushed out. It turned out that Wu Jie's sword actually split it in half. He pulled out the dagger, rubbed it on the shell of the scorpion, and put it on his waist. At this time, he remembered that there were 2 sting scorpions that seemed to be killing each other just now. He drew out the Ningfeng sword and walked towards the 2 unlucky sting scorpions, but found that the 2 creatures were already dying. Wu Go went up and stabbed them with 2 swords, ending their lives. Wu Go suddenly remembered something and chopped a dead sting scorpion's leg several times, split one of its legs, peeled off the shell, and scraped out a few pieces of snow-white tender meat from it. He heard Xia Xingchen say that the meat in the carapace on the sting scorpion's leg was a delicacy on Earth, and it tasted even better when eaten raw. Only the people of Watching Star knew about this, and Wu Go wanted to try it. Sure enough, just as Xia Xingchen said, it was delicious, and he even showed an intoxicated expression on his face. But he was intoxicated, but the audience couldn't stand Wu Go's behavior. It was shocking enough to split the sting scorpion alive just now. Now eating the sting scorpion meat raw made the audience in the venue deeply afraid of Wu Go's cruelty, and some people even vomited on the spot. There were also many people who were in mourning because they had all bet that Wu Go would lose. Many of them bet all their property, and some even borrowed high interest loans to gamble on this one, but they lost everything. It seemed that it would be their turn to fight the bugs soon. The host at the scene began to announce that Wu Go had won. 5 minutes later, the casino's bonus was also transferred to the account of the person who bought Wu Go to win. Xia Xingchen made almost 2 billion star coins this time. However, the slave trader Ayala on the opposite side was not depressed at all. He saw the huge potential of Wu Go, and it seemed that he would have another cash cow. Moreover, this fat guy was very cautious. He did not bet without knowing Wu Go's strength, so he did not lose anything. The result of the game was shocking. The host then announced the situation of tomorrow's battle, Yugo vs Yanma. Yugo's performance was obvious to all, and Yanma's strength was not inferior at all. It seemed that there would be a fierce battle tomorrow. Chapter 324 Gambling. There was no conversation that night. The next day, the second gambling fight was about to take place. Today's venue was Arena 068, because the venue was just the right size, and it was also broadcast, live to the entire Golden City Hotel. Yang Ma was only told that there would be a death fight tomorrow, but she was not told who the opponent was. She was used to it. Anyway, she was numb to fighting. She just wanted to survive. Who knew that today, when she was walking towards the arena under the guard of several fully armed slave hunting team members, a person behind her suddenly shot and injected a needle into her body, and then the passage door to the arena suddenly closed, separating her from the others. Today, only Xia Xingchen brought Wan Ke and Xiaol into Arena 068. Keela, Baum and Julian took the space shuttle back to the Gemini space station to pick up Yugo's mecha, because the mecha battle would take place the next day. Because yesterday's match was so exciting, Arena 068 was packed today. It was not enough for those who could enter to watch the match to have membership. This time, they had to pay a lot of money to buy tickets to watch the match live. It was almost time, and the host on the scene introduced enthusiastically, "Today's match will be very exciting. 2 warriors from Terami Star will represent their boss to give us a wonderful fight. First of all, welcome to the Terami warrior Yugo, who challenged 10 stinging scorpions alone yesterday. He killed 10 stinging scorpions as easily as killing 10 dogs. The spotlights on the scene hit Yugo. He was unarmed today and had no weapons, including his dagger. Many people at the scene started to curse when they saw Yugo appearing. After all, Yugo caused most of them to suffer heavy losses yesterday. Next we will see the beautiful girl from Terami, Yangma, who is also from Furuxing. She is a warrior who has won 106 consecutive games. It is said that Mr. Yugo has taken a fancy to Miss Yangma, which led to today's gambling fight. I wonder if Mr. Yugo will be gentle with women. After all, heroes are often tempted by beautiful women. In today's game, the odds of Yugo winning are 1.86, and the odds of Yangma winning are 1.28. Please don't give up the opportunity to make a fortune. The host's words made many people at the scene think. After all, although the two seem to be evenly matched on the surface, Yangma looks more powerful, and according to human thinking, Yugo is likely to be unable to let go, so Yangma's chances of winning will be greater. So this time, there are still a large number of people betting on Yangma to win. Xia Xingchen still bet 1 billion star coins on Yugo to win. However, the cunning Raider on the opposite side still did not bet, because he was still not sure, and the odds were not worth his bet. The spotlight continued to shine on Yangma. Today, Yangma seemed a little different. She was no longer as timid as before, but like a beast that wanted to tear its prey apart. Her pupils turned blood red. Xia Xingchen's face was gloomy. His and Wu Zhe's first reaction was that Yangma had been drugged. Wu Zhe had read a lot of books, including some medical books. When he saw Yangma's performance, he knew that she had been injected with a berserker. The berserker is a byproduct of military pharmaceutical technology. It was originally a failed product. People who are injected with berserker will have their strength tripled and their speed doubled in a short period of time, and the people who are injected with this drug will not even feel the pain. The effect of the drug will last for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, there will be a period of weakness of 3 to 5 days depending on the overdraft of human strength and the injury. Long-term use will cause irreversible damage to physical health and lifespan. Moreover, the most important point is that people who have been injected with berserker will lose their minds and will indiscriminately attack other creatures around them. It is usually used on the battlefield. Once soldiers are surrounded and do not want to be captured, they use it when they are at their wits' end and make a last-ditch effort. The possibility of dying together with such an opponent is greatly increased. Fatty Rail knew that the kind-hearted Luma would not take the initiative to attack Yugo, who is of the same tribe, so he injected Luma with a frenzy potion, so that Luma fell into a crazy killing without reason, and his strength was also improved. The countdown began on the field, and the bulletproof glass in the middle of the field slowly lowered. Luma rushed up with great speed, and his body left a residual image. Yugo did not move. He was waiting, and when Luma was about to hit him, he flashed to the side, avoiding Luma's palm, and stepped out his calf slightly, tripping Luma's calf, and then pushed Luma's waist with both arms. Luma, who was charging forward fiercely, flew out with a roar, and fell heavily on the bulletproof glass at the edge of the field. Xia Xingchen jumped up. What a great Teikai. Teikai is an ancient martial art from Earth. It is based on the Teikai and Yin-Yang dialectical concepts and the traditional Confucian and Taoist philosophy of an ancient nation on Earth. It integrates multiple functions such as nourishing temperament, strengthening the body, and fighting. It combines the changes of yin-yang and the 5-element in Yixu, the meridian theory of traditional Chinese medicine, and the ancient Dao Yin and breathing techniques, to form an ancient traditional boxing that is both internal and external, gentle, slow, light, and hard and soft. Teikai's implicit, introverted, continuous, soft, hard, fast, slow, and smooth boxing style makes the practitioner's mind, ki, form, and spirit gradually tend to the highest realm of integration. Its requirements for martial arts cultivation also enable practitioners to improve their own quality while strengthening their physical fitness and enhance the harmony between man and nature and man in society. At the same time, Teikai does not exclude the training of physical fitness and emphasizes the combination of hardness and softness, rather than a performance of only softness without hardness. Teikai emphasizes using stillness to control movement, slowness to control speed, and softness to overcome hardness. The Terami people's attack style is swift and fierce, which is just restrained by this martial art. When he fought against Xia Xingchen used this set of boxing, which resulted in a big loss for Yugo, who had never been exposed to Teikai at the time. Now, Yugo decided to use the same trick to fight against the already frenzied Yanma, and the effect was obvious. Puff. This can't be done. Rayla, who had just taken a sip of red wine, sprayed a mouthful of wine on the opposite wall. He didn't expect the ferocious Yanma to be so vulnerable. Yanma was thrown out, got up and rushed over, and Yugo continued to throw her out with Teikai. In 2 minutes, Yanma was thrown out more than a dozen times, and her body was covered with wounds. Although the frenzy potion makes people feel no pain, the body function will definitely be affected if injured, and it will also greatly consume physical energy. Seeing that the time was almost up, Yugo cut Yanma's carotid artery with a palm. Although Yanma was injected with the flower potion, her physical strength was exhausted, and coupled with Yugo's palm, she fainted immediately. There was a great uproar at the scene. The host announced helplessly, Yugo won. Chapter 325 Gambling. Yugo knocked out Yanma with a knife. According to the rules of the game, as long as one side loses its combat effectiveness, the other side will automatically win. There was another wailing at the scene. A lot of people who bet on Yanma to win were cheated again. However, the host announced the schedule for tomorrow again. Yugo will drive the mecha to fight against Rayla's mecha division. The audience at the scene fell into chaos again. They were questioning whether Yugo and his master were crazy. The Terami people can't even drive military mechas. The opponent can even win as long as they send out a mecha division that can drive military mechas. Moreover, Rayla will never allow any accidents to happen. Xia Xingchen and his team won the first 2 games, which was a bit unexpected for him. This third game can't afford any mistakes. He decided to send out his trump card. Pogba is a tall and strong black man, 190 centimeters tall, and only 28 years old this year. Last year he became a SEAL level mecha division. Pogba was a slave. When he was very young, he was bought by Rayla at a very cheap price because his family was poor. He planned to transport him to Gemini and wrestle him. But he found that the child was very smart and his mental strength level grew very fast. He focused on training the child. After all, slaves with skills are easier to sell. As a result, he found that Pogba had a very good talent in mecha driving. So with the careful training of Rayla and the help of a large amount of money, Pogba passed the D level and even C level mecha master exams all the way. C level mecha masters in the civilian world are rare, even in the army. C level mecha masters under the age of 30 are rare. Rayla lifted Pogba's slave status and gave him freedom. And Pogba swore allegiance to Rayla. Whenever Rayla led the slave hunting team out hunting, he drove a mecha to guard him. Rayla also spent nearly 5 billion star coins to build 2 mechas for him. The third match was held at the Mecha fighting arena more than 100 kilometers away. This is a large independent space, but because it is on a planet, both sides are prohibited from using long-range laser weapons. After all, the range of that thing is more than 500 kilometers, and using it on a planet will cause very serious consequences. Xia Xingchen and others, and a large number of hotel guests took the maglev cars, aircraft and other means of transportation provided by the hotel to the Mecha fighting arena. Rayla took his bodyguards and then took his own maglev car to the stadium because he had something very important to do, that is, betting. In today's game, the odds of Hugo winning are 11.00 and the odds of Pogba winning are 1.10. That is to say, excluding the handling fee, if you spend 100 million star coins to buy Hugo to win, if you win, you can get a bonus of 1.1 billion star coins. If you buy 100 million star coins Pogba and win, you will get a bonus of 10 million star coins. Although it seems that Pogba's odds of winning are very low, and it seems uneconomical, his chances of winning are too great, and the probability of winning is greater than 99.99%. No one thinks that Hugo can win. Although the limit of a single game in the Golden City Hotel is 1 billion star coins, Rayla not only bets himself, but also lets his 8 wives bet 1 billion star coins each. Moreover, there are numerous bookmakers on the entire Paradise Star, and they also use the death fighting competition in the Golden City Hotel to open the market. The odds of these companies are higher. Rayla took out more than 100 billion liquid funds in his hand to buy Pogba to win. In this way, it is preliminarily estimated that he can earn 10 billion star coins in bonuses after the game. The game is about to start, and the video displayed on the big screen at the scene shows a situation of 2 mechas in 2 mecha hangars. Pogba's mecha is a modified Onimus mecha. The armor of the entire mecha is made of NIM 106 mecha alloy, and the internal support components have been strengthened. The thrusters behind it have been replaced with white light thrusters. Its main weapons are thermal axe and a law shield, and some other miscellaneous weapons are also installed. This black mecha is a melee mecha specially built by Rayla for Pogba, mainly used for combat inside the atmosphere and fighting in the arena. However, when Rayla saw the Terami warrior mecha in another venue, a bad premonition came over him. He knew that this blue mecha would definitely be difficult to deal with. However, he did not believe that Hugo, a Terami man, could drive such a mecha. So he immediately stopped the game and complained to the hotel mediator and the referee team. They are cheating. They must be cheating. There must be someone else driving the mecha or someone remotely controlling it. It must be. Look at the height of this mecha. There must be someone or other device inside. Rayla complained. He thought he saw through Hugo's response. The hotel attached great importance to this. They also felt that it was against common sense for the Terami people to drive such a mecha, so they postponed the game and sent a senior mecha repairman and 2 mediators as an investigation team to inspect Hugo's Terami warrior mecha on the spot. Because there were a lot of people betting on this game since the night before, and the amount involved was very huge, the Golden City Hotel was also very cautious. In the Northern Empire, on the Heaven Star, it is more than 100 kilometers away from the Golden City Hotel. It is the mecha fighting arena under the Golden City Hotel. Xia Xingchen and the slave trader Rayla's third bet was held on this field because today was a mecha battle. However, after seeing Hugo's Terami warrior mecha, this cunning guy actually questioned the chief referee of the game. He believed that the Terami people could not drive such a mecha at all, and Xia Xingchen and his team were suspected of cheating. In order to prevent the hotel people from colluding with Rayla to tamper with the mecha, Xia Xingchen followed the investigators sent by the hotel to the mecha warehouse in the name of mecha repairman. Rayla also brought his bodyguards and the host with him. The Golden City Hotel took this very seriously and immediately suspended the game and sent a senior mecha repairman and 2 mediators to investigate the matter. After all, this involved hundreds of billions of star coins in gambling funds and the reputation of the Golden City Hotel. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.